It's time for Windows Weekly. Richard Campbell is here. Paul Thurrott, too. Paul's been busy. He created a Windows 11 feature tracker, at first for his own use, but now you can use it too. Build is coming. We'll talk about the session catalog and all the AI. Every AI sprinkled everywhere. Plus, the number one game in the world is now the number one movie. All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 927, recorded Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Up to stuff. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show we get together with two people who shall remain nameless.
Not for very long, but yeah.
To talk about Windows and Microsoft. Paul Thurrott is in Roma Norte, Mexico City, from Thurrott.com. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Leo.
And also with us, Richard Campbell, who very kindly stuck around and did the leather butt impression last week.
I was inspired.
Good news, you don't have to this week. We've got Cory Doctorow. We can all go home early. It'll be...
Geez, I wish I would be on that show. I love that.
You could be on it if you want. You could stick around.
It's all right, brother.
Wednesday's Richard Campbell Day. Richard, of course.
Just work the whole day, right?
Yeah.
But definitely say hi for me. I'm an admirer. He's amazing.
Oh, I know. He's always fascinating.
Yeah.
Richard's back home in beautiful Madeira Park. Nice to see you. I bet you're happy to be there.
Happy to be home and arrived home to a puppy. Because, having a granddaughter wasn't enough. Now we have a puppy.
Oh, I thought you were calling your new baby a puppy. Oh,
nope.
You have a puppy and a grandbaby.
Yes. So, yeah, no, full plate. All the loves. That's what we got. More biting now, but, all the loves.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. What kind of puppy?
Yeah, she's a cross. There's a little poodle in there. So she got springs in her legs and some Bernese and some Aussie Shepherd and some collie.
Oh, it sounds perfect.
Yeah, it's going to be
as long as you get the best of each breed.
We'll see what we got. You find out later and you can't return them back in again, right? The warranty expires before you know anything.
Oh, no, that sounds like just a bundle of love. I think you're going to love it. That's great.
Yeah,
is it your dog or your kid's dog?
It's my wife's dog. And the last one was supposed to be her dog too, and it didn't work out that way. So that's why I'm going. That. This is why I'm going out of town.
I said, that's your cat, not my cat. That's your cat.
But, next week after the show, I head for Australia. So she's going to get 3 weeks of, managing it herself. But she's very confident in it. She wants the dog more than I do. But this is a little love, There's
something about a dog. They just love you. They love you up.
She's a sweetie.
So, Paul Thurrott.
Yes.
I nipped Steve Gibson in the bud yesterday.
Nipped him in the bud.
I nipped him in the bud.
That doesn't sound like it's suitable for work. But
whacked
please
him
continue.
on the nose with a newspaper. No.
Yeah.
We started going on about the bypassnro.cmd.
Yep.
And I repeated your caution that they just took away the batch file, not the commands it executed. And Correct. You can still, and Steve was mollified. He said, oh, that's good. I said, it's exactly what we want. You want the kind of unsophisticated user to have what they expect. But you want the sophisticated user to be able to do what they want.
We'll see what happens. That's the thing.
You don't think this is a long-term plan on Microsoft's part to slow?
No, I do actually. Unfortunately,
that's what he was worried about.
Yeah, it's part of it. Well, look, I off the top of my head, I can't go through all of the steps that they took, but at one, they switched to Microsoft. You can sign in with a Microsoft account. Well, first you could attach what used to be called a .NET passport or a Windows Live Passport or whatever it was called to your Windows 7 account. And then they introduced the ability to sign in with a Microsoft account in Windows 8. And then at some point it was the default. And at some point they got rid of it in Home. And at some point, actually they got rid of it in Pro. The ability of that is to sign in with a local account right in setup. So, it's been an escalating series of things. But like I said last time and with the Mac today as well, they'd have to fundamentally change Windows to really get rid of it. And I just don't, they're never really going to get rid of it. And there are other workarounds, so
the motivation here is reducing tech support. That's the clearest, most logical expense in their lives is when folks use these tools, not really understanding what they are, and get their machine in a state they know what to do, well, who are they going to call? Who are they going to blame?
This is
It's not going to be them.
Look, like everything else in life, I talked about this McDonald's effect. They didn't start McDonald's to make everyone fat, but they were trying to solve a problem. There's good and bad to everything, right? And Microsoft purposefully is doing things that drive you toward their services, right? And that's understandable. It's a business. It's fine. But the benefits of the Microsoft account outweigh the bad stuff by far.
Yeah.
There are very good technical reasons for it. And what Richard said, absolutely 100% correct. It gets you in. I talked about this notion of start a Microsoft account or a Google account, but use a different email address, automatic recovery built in. You're better off right there. You're better off. The automatic disk encryption stuff right there. Better off.
Yeah. And most people expect that, right? So they don't want to be told, oh, well,
we're going to talk about these features coming in Windows 11, right? So there's a feature there. I can't remember. I can't keep this track. I can't keep this stuff straight. That's the point. There's a feature either coming or in Windows 11 now, all of a sudden, that if you sign it with a Microsoft account and it knows that you have not set up recovery methods through another email address, phone number, whatever, it will prompt you to do so. That's also better for you. Now, I know a lot of these prompting things are the types of things I do complain about, but those are the things that don't have a benefit for me or Microsoft driving me to do something that's better for them exclusively, right? Like a lot of the edge behaviors or whatever. So it's good and bad, but mostly good. And for most people, it's the right decision.
Yeah, it's nothing to argue with. And they're not taking away functionality. They're just making you need a little more expertise to be successful with it.
Hey, listen, the people who are Windows experts or tech experts, you should love this. That's what you want. You want to be able to do something other people can't figure out.
That's how it should be.
This is all you ever wanted. It's perfect.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Well, the problem is you're afraid they're going to take it away. But I don't know. I just don't see that. But we'll see. We'll see how it evolves.
I think this is such a perfect compromise for Microsoft. And I feel like why would they insist on a Microsoft account? I mean, that's what...
that's what it feels
the conspiracy theory is, they just want to get you in, but you're already using Windows. I don't know.
Yeah, far too late for that anyway.
Really, you're already man.
I got stupidly involved in a thread on wherever, Twitter, threads, whatever it was, where I don't even know. It was just in response to some auto post about something I or Laurent had written on Thread.com, something about Google or whatever. And some guy, apropos of nothing, just chimes in with like, I bought a Google Pixel phone, but I got all the Google crap off of it. I installed some other operating system. And it's like, I'm sorry.
What?
You wanted the weaker processor with no battery life, but not the Google stuff? That's why you buy that phone. What are you talking about?
Well, you can't. I mean, in fact, there is a company that sells this phone de-Googled. And you could there are, some nice...
If you want to anything, how about take a Samsung flagship and de-Samsung that? Well, that would be useful. Or put Pixel
because this has
Android on there.
This has some hardware feature. Oh, you think this is a worse processor than the Samsung?
It's objectively much worse processor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, performance and battery life. Yeah, okay. Even the AI processing is worse.
I didn't know that.
It's kind of bizarre.
But this is you own a Pixel, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Pixel 9.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay. But in
I also
future, would you say buy
flaws.
a Samsung? I don't want the Samsung.
No,
crap.
because when I buy a Samsung, I see it and I hate it. And I hate everything on it. And everything, that's what I mean. If I could get the Samsung hardware,
right,
the Google Pixel software, the whole thing, that would be that's
probably doable. I'll look over at XDA developers and see what
I can't. It takes 2 seconds before you have to sign the 3 Samsung agreements that you give away your third child and whatever else is in there. It's crazy.
I'm mostly Samsung TVs and I deeply regret it. We have that frame TV. Yeah. I hate it. Sure. I'm so disappointed. And it's that Samsung operating system.
Smart TVs where you I just sign in to receive your virus over the air.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Sign in to get your free virus.
Don't sign in and we'll just prompt you to sign in all the time. We'll be great.
Well, they pop up stuff all the time. Say, well, just so you know that the terms have changed.
I know.
It's like, I'm watching a show here. Do you mind?
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the middle of a severance over here. Do you think you could hold it a second?
What?
Get out.
I know. No, I don't understand. I don't get Samsung. I have a problem with this.
Let's get Cory Doctorow on. He'll do
He
it.
is. He's coming up in 2 hours.
One day, I mean, he comes up a couple of times. Not him, but the enshittification stuff comes up a couple of times today, later in the show, including right at the end of my bit, where looking for those things that are the opposite of that, right? Which because there are some things in our world, there aren't many. It's a short conversation. But,
there's a Reddit subreddit I really like called "Buy It for Life."
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And the premise is you buy it once and you never have to buy it again. And of course, none of that is technological. It's not. It's all things like KitchenAid mixers. But
I don't know. I think that copy of Paperclip I have for the Commodore 64 is still kicking around. It's fine. It's all I need to write, baby.
Introducing. I'm sorry, I hijacked the show. I will not. I just wanted you to know that I defended.
Yeah.
I can't believe this. Windows, Microsoft to Steve Gibson, and he
This
bought
is the cancerous effect I have on people. I'm sorry.
I mean, really, you're just picking the least effort alternative, right? It's
Yeah.
Occam's razor. What is the least they need to do to create outrage?
yeah.
Just take the script away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
perfect.
keep saying, we have plenty to be outraged about. We don't need to make stuff up. There's all kinds of stuff going on in our world. It's don't worry, we'll get there. How did I get out of this? I keep clicking on things in Notion and I go somewhere else. Anyway,
I am on the Notion spreadsheet that you use. What do you call this? Database, file, page, notes that you use. And it says the next feature of this show will be introducing the Windows 11 feature tracker.
yes, it does. I was like, what does it say? I'm like, I don't see that.
What does it mean?
No, you're right.
Yes.
It does say.
No,
So,
I'll show you.
but
What
you're
does that
doing
mean?
this, right?
yep. What does that mean? Yes.
What does that mean?
Whew. A couple of weeks ago, Microsoft did that little shift very quietly. They took the dev channel out of 24H2, new build stream, and then they're calling it 24H2. So I was like, okay, they're onto something here. That's going to be 25H2 probably. It could be Windows 12. We don't know yet, but this is a new version of Windows. So this thing has been gnawing me in the back of my brain. I've got this book. It's grown to 1,200 pages. It's stupid. Keeping up with what Microsoft is doing is very difficult. I don't feel like there are many people in the world that care as much as I do and yet are as confused by it as much as I am.
If you don't care, it's easy to not be confused.
Yes. Caring too much is the path to confusion, also to outrage and anger. But I ended up writing this gigantic article where I walked into listing what.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have to stop. I have a free gift from Thurrott.com. Let me just enter my email. Sorry. Here it is. So this is
Well, no,
awesome.
but before we get to that, hold on. So
Okay.
sorry, real
So
quick.
pay no attention to that. Go ahead.
No, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of went through, just for my own edification, did this thing I should have been doing for years and years now, but have never really done, which was go back, and I just stuck with the dev channel. I didn't look at other channels or individual apps. What did they announce? What features did they add and when? And did they ever make their way to stable? I came up with a list of 15 major features, some of which everyone knows, like recall, click to do, etc., that had never shipped in stable yet. I mean, they will, right? But I'm like, we need to keep track of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I sort of said vaguely, I'm going to work on this. I knew it would take a lot of time. 2 days later, Microsoft put out something called the Windows Roadmap, which was a list of features we've been testing for Windows 11, but haven't shipped yet, or here's when they're going to ship. I'm like, oh, good. Now I don't have to do this work. So then I looked at it and it was garbage and really incomplete. And even though the thing I did was by definition incomplete, it was way better than what Microsoft had come up with.
I like your hero shot at the beginning of your article.
Yeah.
In which you have written something and then you go to rewrite and casual, formal, refine. So
the reason that screenshot exists is because I wanted to list what the features were for rewriting for text actions. Yeah. But also, so I took one of this and I took one of an image with the image options.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking for a shot for the article, I was like, oh, actually,
I got one.
There's a Windows 11 feature that's never shipped. I'll use that. I didn't actually use it to rewrite anything. I mean, I'm not an idiot. But anyway,
you realize this is going to become the website of misfit Windows toys, right? Like eventually.
I love it. Which is actually a much better title for my book as well. Maybe a subtitle. So yeah, it's good. I like that. So coming into this week, I don't remember it randomly. I guess it was just randomly Tuesday. And I was like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm actually going to make this. And as I wrote an article about why and what I was going to do. And that's the thing you see highlighted in that image. And it was going to include the tracker at the bottom of it. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is too long. I'll just say that I'm going to do it. I'll do the next one on Patch Tuesday, which is probably next week. I look at the calendar. I'm like, oh, it's today. Great. So Patch Tuesday was yesterday. So I was like, I got to get going on this. So I'm writing away. I'm doing it. It's growing and growing and growing. And Laurent texts me and he says, hey, the Patch Tuesday updates are out. I'm like, killing me. Okay. I had written what I had written based on the preview update from 2 weeks ago. It turns out 100% accurate to what was released Tuesday. So that worked out pretty good. But I just did it as a web page, right? So the thing, Leo, you can show it now. I'm sorry. The thing you were showing is the thing I came up with. But even as I did it, I sort of realized I'm going to be republishing this whenever. I don't know exactly, like maybe every 2 weeks, week D, week B, maybe just on Patch Tuesday. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. This is going to kind of evolve as I do it. But I was like, I need this to be kind of better than this, right? I need it to be maybe interactive. Brad was talking to me this morning. He says, hey, I saw this thing you did. You should do this in Notion. And like, Notion. He's like, yeah, Notion has like databases. They have tables. They have whatever. I don't know if you can make it interactive where other people could contribute, right?
You can also make it a public web page, which is nice.
Which I have done. And so that's actually, I'm sorry. I've not completed it.
But you're working on it.
He told me this morning. Yeah. Today's Wednesday. I'm in Mexico, so this is 2 hours earlier for me than it would be if I was in the United States.
This is non-trivial to move this all over. You've got to.
Yeah, but I'll do it. It's okay because I only have to do it once, and then
But do you want people to edit it? I mean, no. I wouldn't make it. Well,
I do like the idea of a GitHub type thing where they make I guess you call it a push request or whatever, and I can approve it. Good. Maybe, but that's not super important to me. I mean, the big thing for me is I need to keep track of this for myself. I think it's useful for other people.
This is incredible.
Yeah, but this is just
this. Wow.
Yeah, this is just the web-based version. So there's a Notion version where I just put the first three into a very basic table that just to kind of see what it might look like. It looks so good. There's almost no way I'm not using this.
Nice.
It's really neat looking. And there's a link. There is a link to it, I think, in the notes at the bottom of that first paragraph. I don't know if it will come up on. For me, it's coming up inside. It's coming up in. Like copy the link and then paste it into a browser. I don't know why it's coming up inside of Notion for me. But if you look at it on the web, you can see. By the way, this is just rough. I just roughed in 3 things, but I'm like, I saw this and I was like, yeah, because you can filter this in different ways. You can sort it in different ways. It has all those interactive.
Said, you kind of want to have the data set in GitHub and then maybe generate to this. Mm-hmm. So then you get all that people can contribute and write issues.
And then I could say, okay, and it gets into, yes.
The other way,
you decide when to propagate it into.
Let me further complicate it.
Yep.
The other way you could do it is a wiki. Yes. Use MediaWiki, and you could have the same editing features that a Wikipedia has. So you could have contributors.
Yep.
You could have conversations.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways.
If you have a VPS, setting up MediaWiki is pretty trivial. I've done it.
Okay.
And then...
and I'm not trying to turn the creation of this thing into a career.
I know.
I know. But I do... Now that I've sort of done one thing like this, I'm like, yes,
Notion is a very straightforward way to.
Yeah, I feel very stupid not to have done this before. This is almost
irresponsible. Again, just for your own consumption to organize your thoughts around these things.
So yeah, we'll see.
I'm trying to find the Notion link though. I don't.
So the last link in that first paragraph, if you right click it and do copy link.
I'm looking at the premium version, and I don't.
No, on the. On the notes,
in the
Notion notes, the last link.
Oh, our notes.
Paragraph.
You mean like the thing
it says like a Notion website, but don't click it in Notion. You have to right click and choose copy link or something.
Got it. Okay.
Open a new window.
Okay. Nice.
Yes,
please. This is sweet.
And this was 10 minutes of work,
this is what Notion's made for. It's basically a database, right?
Mm-hmm. It's literally a database. Yeah. So one thing that, So like I said, yesterday was Patch Tuesday. So Patch Tuesday has a long list of new features. So if you were following along with the preview update stuff from 2 weeks prior, you knew that.
It was quiet for a while, but it seems they're in full swing again.
Oh, yeah. So what I found doing this feature tracker were a couple of things. One is that there are now roughly 24, I think over 24 major features for Windows 11 that are in testing, have never shipped.
And are still calling in 24H2. Like, when 25?
I know. It's crazy. Also, if you look at the list of new features from this Patch Tuesday, every single one of them, and I mean every single one of them, is a CFR, a controlled feature release, meaning they will roll out randomly. There are no features that you will get automatically on every PC on day one. It's just like this is the stupidest kind of crazy thing. Tied to this, the same day that I did the tracker, Microsoft later that day posted a major update to the Copilot app in the Insider Preview program to all channels, which suggests that it will come out imminently. It's tied to some stuff we'll talk to later in the show from the Consumer AI Day. It has a couple of new features related to searching for files from within Copilot and analyzing the content, obviously, and for vision. But that's, we'll talk about that later.
Sure.
And people discovered that the latest builds in the Insider program have a new start menu that's very different, quite different from the one that we have now. I would say that the start menu in Windows 11 was one of the more controversial bits when they first shipped it, especially. Not particularly configurable.
It took away features primarily.
Yeah, but it's also really badly done. Like just from as a programming project, it's badly done. So by default, you have a pin section at the top and a recommended section at the bottom. You can choose some basic layout changes where you have more space for pinned or more space for recommended. But if you if you deleted every item in pinned, you would just have some empty space at the top of the start menu.
Right, you're not going to get the screen space.
It doesn't have an auto flow sense or anything. It's really dumb. So the new update, the start menu gets bigger, wider, and taller. It's still not resizable, which is stupid. You used to be able to do that in Windows 10, you may recall. But they have different sections and then different views that you can customize. So you can have a category view, a name list, or name grid, and all your apps are on the front page now by default. At the bottom of the start menu. So it's more customizable as well. And of course, they're all separately rolling out this update for phone link users where you get that phone link cancerous side thing that sits there like
it's just
doing what it does. Yeah, it's very strange.
Always telling me to connect while still being connected. Really, really, really wants to turn all the notifications on no matter what you want.
The entire day yesterday telling me it was disconnected and it was connected just fine and updating. And I don't know, it's not very good. But, nothing they do is very good, I guess. So this is where we're at. But anyway, this kind of highlighted that between the Copilot app getting updated yet again and this thing that they have not yet announced, but will soon, I'm sure. Windows, these changes are coming. Like there's a lot of stuff happening, and it just kind of highlighted the need of.
In a lot of ways, I feel like that's a good thing too, right? Like there's clearly a group of people working on stuff. And
the problem is those people are driving around in a clown car and they have brightly colored noses and clothes and big shoes. No, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right.
You were sadder when you thought they weren't paying any attention at all.
That's the thing. If we've learned anything, it's that I'm never going to be happy. So what's the difference?
We might as well make stuff that amuses us and upsets you.
Yeah.
All right. You are watching Windows Weekly. We're very happy that you're here, you winners and dozers, you. And so are Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. And the show continues on with, ladies and gentlemen, I give you more Windows 11.
I'm really excited about the fact that there's 2 segments on Windows.
Yeah.
On Windows.
Ooh,
this is
fancy.
In some ways, there are 3, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Oh, no.
What is this?
Oh, no.
I heard, I don't know why you call it Windows Weekly anymore.
Did somebody say that?
No, not really. But
Nobody ever says that.
So looking back at the Insider program, there were two major sets of builds over the past week, and I don't remember anymore if these are even in the tracker thing. If they're not, they will be. But in the beta channel for 23H2, testing changes to Explorer. So there's some like what will happen if you have a file explorer open and then a window open and then you open a new file explorer window. Does it have the same tabs? Does it do different tabs? So they're kind of playing around with that. And then this context menu thing we've been talking about forever. Back in 24H2, back in like where we are now. I mean, back when they first shipped it a million years ago, like almost a year ago, right, for Copilot plus PCs, they had fixed those context menu icons that look like hieroglyphics by adding labels to them.
Yeah.
And genius, right? This is the one feature that I know of that has not shipped in 23H2. Microsoft has been testing it in 23H2 and has pulled it twice. And now they're saying they might not be doing it.
It might be a render problem of some kind.
Maybe there's some I don't know, something's wrong in there for some reason in 23H2 where they can't get it to work right.
You can't crash your machine with captions. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, we'll see what happens there. And then dev and beta in the 24H2 time or frame or build frame or whatever, however we're saying that. A bunch of things. And actually, one of these is really exciting. So they're bringing back this notion of taskbar scaling. So as you add icons to the taskbar will get smaller and the icons get smaller so you can fit more on screen instead of doing that silly overflow area. But tied to this is an option we used to have in the taskbar, I don't even know how long ago, for a long time, where you could just keep it small. So it's basically the small icons view. Right. Which is what I want. I mean, not that it's taking up an inch or two.
Windows 10, man. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going back in time there. And then this I don't quite understand. I feel like Microsoft is kind of screwing around with UI a little bit too much here, but in a coming build of Windows or a coming version of Windows or whatever, we're going to get this change to the right-click share menu. So you right-click on a file. I'm just going to do it now so I can tell you what it says. And today in Windows 11, one of the options is share. So coming soon, that's one of those items in the tracker. Share is actually going to trigger a sub menu, and there'll be a list of apps that are compatible with that thing, which you would normally have to go to the share pane for. Or somewhere at the bottom, there's an option that just says more or share or whatever it says. And that will bring up the normal share pane, and those apps will be there too, but there'll be the other ways you can share. So now they're introducing a variant of that where you pick up a file and drag it. Oh, actually, this isn't this build. So I'm on the dev channel. So I drag it to the top, and you get a little pop-down thing like we get for Snap. And it says drag here to share. And there is a list of apps that are compatible with sharing this thing, and then a more. And if I go to more, it opens the share pane. So it's two ways to do the same thing, which is the most Microsoft thing I've ever heard of in my life.
At least two. I mean, it's going to be more. They're really desperate for you to use share, so they're just going to put it in more places.
Yeah, there are more. So there's also the toolbar-based way to do it in File Explorer. So just
and I mean, except for that part where the thing you want to share it to doesn't support that, it works great.
Yes. When I did do the tracker the other day, it feels like it was a million years ago. It was yesterday. That's how long ago it was. Yesterday was hours ago. Yeah, 24 hours ago, or in my brain, 48 years ago when I did the tracker. That's what it feels like. I talked about it a little bit. Leo said, "Oh, I love this screenshot." I said, "Yeah, the reason it exists is because I was taking a screenshot so I could list the actions for both text and graphics." And I noticed that one of them was called Ask Copilot. I was like, that's kind of interesting. I actually don't remember that being an option. That's because it's one of the newest features. They just added it to the dev channel and the beta channel in 24H2. And what it does is it brings up the Copilot app so that you can go and learn more about the thing you've selected, whether it's text or a graphic, right? So that's fun. Or not. I don't know. And then just because I know this is an ongoing issue for every single human being that's ever used Windows and is technical in any way, Microsoft is dripping out little features in the settings that used to only be available in control panel. And in this build, they're adding some accessibility mouse and pointer and touch features into settings that used to trigger one of those, control panel windows, not the control panel itself, but the little windows. Like
I don't know why they've not really had an initiative to simply retire a control panel, to really just go through and make sure everything is somewhere else.
Yep. I can't explain it. I feel like there's some legacy extensibility thing that I'm just not privy to, that maybe it's some businesses.
I suspect there's stuff in control panel that nobody's prepared to replace, right? And there's lots of third-party stuff in control panel, right? Your Realtek audio stuff, and who wants to fix that?
Yeah. I mean, I only know a little bit about this because I've been sort of half working on this kind of Windows tweak utility thing. But one of the things that's really interesting to me about the settings app is that you can construct a link and thus a button or whatever it is in an app, or it could be a shortcut on your desktop that will trigger a particular page or even option in settings. So for example, one of the ones I actually made a shortcut out of is I just call it colors. And when I double click it, settings opens and navigates to personalization colors, and it lets me switch back and forth between dark and light mode quickly, which I have to do when I'm testing apps, or like when I'm on a podcast like this, I have to be in dark mode because otherwise, it'd be like this lightning bolt in my face. Every single thing in settings can be linked to that way. So you can go right to those things. And I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that every single setting as well can be programmatically set using a similar syntax or whatever it is. So that's to me, that alone makes settings the better option, for everything. Sure. I do wish they would kind of move to that, but
I mean, in theory, we're going to Copilot all the things. And what do I need to ask this machine most of the time? It's like, would you turn up all the microphone settings? I don't care where they are, just turn them up.
You do this a lot. I think you said something that cut right to the heart of the matter, which is that might be why what I just described is true, so that Copilot can do it for you. That literally might be the reason.
Yeah, this is the destination.
That's very interesting. That's interesting that you said that. I think that might be it. I'm gonna just talk myself into that now.
Okay, let's just believe it. It'll be easier.
Yeah. There is an app called Intel Unison that is like PhoneLink. And for a long time, it had, that were not available in PhoneLink, including iPhone support, which is now available in PhoneLink finally. And not as good as Android, obviously. Last year at IFA, Lenovo announced expanded their partnership with Intel, and they're creating these things called Aura Edition laptops, right? So they're ThinkPads, IdeaPads. I might be missing something. Yoga, right. That have Aura editions, and Aura editions have these software experiences that Intel and Lenovo co-created, most of which are not super interesting. But the best one is tied to this Unison app. And the idea with this is that you bring your phone to your computer, and you don't actually have to tap it. They show you tapping it. You just have to bring it close. But if you bring it close to any side of these computers, which have proximity sensors on them, it will launch a Unison experience that comes out of that side of the screen, wherever the phone is, so that you can move photos back and forth or do whatever the options are.
Interesting.
Really neat. That's going away because Intel is killing the Unison app. And for most people, that's going to end at the end of June. But for people with Aura Edition laptops, it's going to...
you bought a laptop for this feature. And now the
problem with this is... I'm sorry, but unless I'm missing something, and this is always a challenge for me. It could be. If you want the latest ThinkPad X1 Carbon, that's an Aura Edition laptop. I don't think there is a non-Aura Edition laptop. I kind of hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it costs any extra because of that or anything. But
no,
you get the logo when the thing boots up. It's on the screen. It's.
But if you selected the machine because you really wanted that feature, you're very annoyed.
That's going to be, it's not a good thing. Now, it's possible that something could change between now and then, in the sense of there'll be an alternative, or maybe Lenovo takes this on themselves and they can do this functionality just for their machines. I don't know, but
incorporated in the PhoneLink, goodness knows.
That would be one option too. So we'll see. But this warning is everywhere. Intel has never announced it formally, But if you go to the app listing in the Microsoft Store for Windows, the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, it's there.
All about this is being deprecated.
Oh yeah,
Don't fall in love with this.
This is happening pretty quietly. So, but it's
interesting.
happening.
So,
Well,
what does it do?
It's a phone connectivity app. So it's sort of like phone link. You have a smartphone.
So if you have phone link, do you need it?
The Aura Edition feature that I described, where you tap the side of the device, is unique. But do you need it? No. I mean, honestly, phone link has gotten to the point where it's actually very good.
Yeah, I think phone link's great. I didn't even know about Unison.
Yeah, it. They don't say this. It's weird. In the Intel my understanding was that Dell owned the company that made this, and it was unique to Dell for a while. And I don't know if they spun it off or sold it or something. It became its own company, and then Intel bought that company, and it was like, oh, good, now we'll be everywhere. And it's like, no, we're going to strike deals with PC makers. So it was HP, Lenovo, and I think Acer. Not every single computer, but some range of them would come with this app. And, for a while, it was actually very valuable because, again, PhoneLink didn't do certain things, including most notably work with iPhones. But, now it does.
It kind of looks like Apple's continuity, right? Where you just, everything, it moves around from all your devices.
Yep.
As long as they're all Intel.
I always, this is like the Samsung Dex thing where it gives you a desktop, and it's like,
yeah. Dex was discontinued too, weirdly enough.
Because Intel, Google in that case is adding this to Android, right? That's where it should come from.
Right.
So you kind of want it to be in the platform, not from, you don't want it just on certain computers. I mean, maybe the PC makers might, but, as a user, you want to be able to buy the computer you want and get those features. That should be in the platform. So PhoneLink has gotten to the point where it's there, and it's actually it's good. It's not as bad as it used to be. No, it's good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to qualify it. It's
damned by faint praise.
It used to be barely acceptable to acceptable depending on the kind of phone you have. No, but it's actually very good. Okay,
let's talk about build.
Yeah, I'd love to, but I can't get. Notion won't scroll. I don't know what's going on. No. All right. Well, so the build session.
The day of technical snafu.
I know. I don't know. This has been a crazy day. The thing I didn't tell you guys
said not supposed to jinx me. I'm the one with all the hardware problems.
Yeah, you're doing all right now.
Yeah.
So I was my computer that I use for this is installing a build. So normally you go through the screen, 17%, 70%, whatever. It takes a couple minutes, comes back, right? This time it rebooted and it went into that kind of Windows update screen where it's like smaller text and it's going to be there for like a long time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. So I said, well, it's 1 minute of 2 or 1 minute of 12, I guess here. I should probably get another computer. Now, I've not used this computer for the show, so I got to figure that out. I asked Richard if he wouldn't mind sending me the link, blah, 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 whatever. I connected to the dock. I get the thing. My keyboard stopped working. And I'm like, what's happening? And I looked out, the batteries were dead. Oh. So I had to have, my wife threw me some batteries. I'm like, this is like the way this day is going. It's just, so, this is probably 15 years ago or something. My kid, almost 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. My son comes home from school one day and he goes, hey, I heard about this. I don't even remember what the feature was. He's like, something is coming to Xbox, whatever was new at the time. I'm like, yep. And he goes, the reason I know about this is some goon named Paul Thurrott said it on like Twitter or whatever. And I was like, okay. So I learned today that.
Did your son not know who his daddy was?
He was joking.
Good.
His sense of like man humor, he's just going to ridicule me. Right. So I was doing the show notes and I go through and I refresh the front page and I'm like, oh, the build session catalog is live. I learned on my own website from someone else who wrote it. So I wrote Laurent. I'm like, I'm going to tell you what my son told me, which is I know about this because some goon on my website wrote about it.
Laurent.
So, no, it's cool. So as expected, lots of AI, whatever. But also AI across the stack, right? And so if you go and look at the .NET dev stuff, you'll see .AI and .NET as you would. So using AI in Maui, using AI in just in .NET in general, whatever. There's a lot of stuff. I looked at the Windows thing, which is one of the shorter ones, but as expected, Windows Copilot runtime, which they announced last year build and have yet to ship, by the way, in stable. It's available in preview. finally, but that's a recent development. Windows Actions, which are the things that Copilot in Windows can do with Windows features. So tied to that thing we were just talking about with settings, but not just settings actions, but also app actions, right? This is going to turn into that kind of orchestrator type thing we always talk about. And some other stuff, there's even a native app experiences talk, which, is going to be WinUI 3 and the Windows App SDK, and that's fine. Some ARM64 stuff. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I know both of us are going, and Richard, this is something I got to talk to you about because I signed up for it, and Microsoft is only offering hotel rooms through Tuesday. So
interesting.
Before
the show really gets going.
Yeah. So, there's a thing on Sunday, and then there's the Monday day one thing. So I could go home Tuesday and just do it normally, or I could stay through Thursday, but I have to figure out the hotel. So we'll talk about that offline. Yep. We can do our schedule thing on our dime, I guess. But we should.
I do have a video rigged booth, so we should be having some fun. I'll make sure I block out the Wednesday block for us.
I am really confused by this. I can't get this thing to scroll.
But I don't know why the hotel rooms are messed up. That's not right.
Yeah, I don't. I'm thinking about contacting them and saying, "Could I stay through Wednesday night?" Is that a thing?
It's worth a try.
Yeah.
I just wanted Thursday, and then I'm flying to South Africa. So,
jeez. Well, yeah, I'll be coming there from. I almost said Boston. From where do I live? Pennsylvania. I don't know. It's been a while.
Okay. Richard, you're such a macher. It's great. A mocker. You got the thing wired up, man, already.
Going with the thing with the stuff for sure.
You got the stuff, the thing, you got the booth, you got the cameras. It's amazing.
I barely have the
Paul doesn't even have a room.
I can't even I can barely just roll out of bed and show up,
We'll see. This is a new rig we're experimenting with, so we'll see how it goes. I've got a few YouTubers coming in, so I figured I'd get them a rig, and when we get
nice.
Of it too.
Aren't you kind?
Nice.
Do my best.
Everybody's saying we should do a joint show with who's that Windows YouTuber they all like? He used to work at Microsoft. You know who I'm talking about.
Like what? Oh, Dave Plummer.
Dave Plummer.
Mm-hmm.
So I love him in a sense. Like I watch every video he's ever made, and I watch them as they come out. I don't know that from a personality perspective, I don't know.
Not a good fit.
Well, YouTubers are characters too, so you don't know what the guest experience would be.
Well, I know what I was like experiencing meeting him in person, and I can just tell you that I don't know. Like it was, I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe.
Well, that's fine. He doesn't. Obviously,
he has a good show though. I like his show quite a bit.
Yeah. No,
his whole shtick is he worked on NT in the heyday, and the latest show he does a Q&A thing sometimes, which was the one I was just listening to, and he was.
Not everyone has your skill set, Paul. Just
no, or his skill set. He's he's actually kind of a genius. He's a programmer. He's
knowledgeable in the engineering.
No, he wrote
sphere.
A lot of the shell that went into 95 and NT4. And someone was asking him about Windows Me, and he's like, "Look, I never even installed this thing. I know that people seem to hate it for some reason. He doesn't quite understand why." But he said, "It's 9X, so my code was in there." But he's like, "I can tell you, my code wasn't the problem." He's like, he may have had problems, but it wasn't my stuff.
It wasn't my fault. That's all I'm saying.
I thought that was kind of funny, but
it's very funny.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like his video quite a bit.
He doesn't need us. That's fine. People can watch both.
He clearly doesn't need me. He made that one. He made that pretty clear.
I don't need you, Tharad. I just don't need you.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's nice to meet you too, sir.
YouTubers are a breed apart. That's why I was very impressed that Richard has invited some YouTubers.
I invited the nice ones.
Yeah. I mean, well, there are the YouTubers who are like wearing the hats backwards and doing the "hey dog," blah 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 thing. But I think the YouTubers that he would have on his show are they're talking about
they're devs,
IT dev topics. These are not showy, idiots.
Yeah, YouTube is not.
And Dave Plummer's not like that at all. He's just highly technical.
It's all different. Yeah,
he's great.
Yeah. So are you going to go to? Well, you don't have to. Well, you
I am
are
going to go.
going.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go.
I'm going to watch online, right?
I think Mary Jo's not going. I talked to her. She seemed pretty adamant that she might be done doing the traveling stuff. So we'll see. But I'm going to go. I need to see people that aren't my wife every once in a while. And you work from home for too long, and it's like there's a world out there, right?
There's a thing out there, and then
So I gotta go.
the evenings are particularly fun. We usually round up a bunch of WW folks and go to a dinner somewhere, and
I think when you live in New York, you just expect the world to come to you.
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't need to go out.
Yeah, sure.
You don't need to get on a plane.
I can tell you, living in Mexico City, the world does not come to me.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I keep trying. You're just not there.
All right, I have a big announcement. Can I take a break, and then we'll talk about AI and Microsoft's 50th, because there's a lot of partying that has been going on. But I might have a cause for a party right now.
Ooh.
We're responding to a long time request from our Club TWiT members to, you're going to be very happy to hear this, restore our yearly plan.
Now, Leo, you know what that means, though.
Yeah, that's why I turned it off.
Kind of like a promise here.
That's why I turned it off. Well, I want to promise no refunds. If I get hit by a bus,
Leo's
no refunds.
Guarantee you're not getting your money back. It comes, money goes one way.
But I really do understand that people hate it that they get a bill for $7 every month, right?
Yeah.
So Lisa has persuaded me, and she has some persuasive capability.
Yep.
Oh,
yes. I sleep with her, so she can kick me and say, the yearly plan, the yearly, we should do that.
Said to me one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and she's right. So we're going to reinstall it. Now, here's how this works. When we got rid of the yearly Club TWiT membership, we made everybody into a monthly. In fact, I just got an email from somebody who said, what happened? I was a yearly member. Now I'm getting to $7 a month. Go back into your membership page and turn on the yearly subscription. That option should be there now. It's $84 a year, once a year. And it doesn't save you money, but it just saves you like the pain. And for some people in the EU and other places where their card will charge them every time, that does save you money. So, if you were annual at any point, you'll have to, and you want to go back to that, go into your subscriptions page and change it to annual. If you're not yet a member, may I encourage you to join the club. $7 a month, $84 a year gets you ad-free versions of this show and every show we do. You get the good feeling of supporting what we're doing. It does make a big difference, especially now where the economy is kind of, can I say rocky? Is that a good word? And so we're, we don't know what's coming, but and that's one of the reasons we brought back the yearly plan, because then we kind of have a kind of consistent flow, and that's good for us. So if you're not a member, twit.tv/clubtwit, choose the monthly or the yearly plan. Sign up today. We would love to have you. There are some great events coming up. You get access to a Club TWiT Discord, which is full of really interesting people, including Paul and Richard, talking about not just the shows, but all kinds of things that geeks are interested in. We also, the Club TWiT Discord has become my social network. It's kind of preferable, frankly, to a lot of what else is out there. We do have thank you. Patrick has given us twit.tv/clubtwit/FAQ #switch. We'll explain how to switch plans. But if you just go to twit.tv/clubtwit, everything is there. Some big events coming up. We've got Micah's Crafting Corner on the 16th, a great chance to get cozy, chill, and do your craft while Micah does his, which, as it turns out, this time is going to be Lego succulents. On the 18th,
you're just mixing words around now.
I know. Word salad. Coffee time with the coffee geek. Mark Prince returns on the 18th, and he's bringing Liz Happy Beans with him. We'll talk specialty coffee with Liz Happy Beans. Our AI user group is every fourth Friday. Anthony Nielsen's put that together. Show us how you use AI in your daily life. We've got also Stacy's Book Club And one of the things that's coming up May 16th in a month, and one of the things we've decided to do, because we've been getting some heat from the dear and lovely folks at Apple when we restream their keynotes. They have this thing. They say, "What are you doing?" And they give us strikes and YouTube, and we got hit on Twitch the last time. So we've surrendered. And from now on, when we do keynotes, you know how Micah and I and others Richard's done it, Paul's done it, we'll talk over the keynote to kind of annotate it. From now on, those will occur only in the Club Twit Discord, which has two advantages. One, the lawyers can't see it. And two, you can participate, which I think is actually better. So that first one will be June 9th, WWDC. Maybe we'll do Build. I don't know if there's a reason to do that. Probably will, right? Oh, Mark has said that if I say Lego succulents and Liz Happy Beans in a sentence, it will activate the Manchurian Candidate.
Exactly.
Now I understand all. Must wait a minute.
It's you know what? That's the verbal version of Control-Alt-Delete. It's such an unusual combination. You would only do it on purpose. Also, there are two Leos. What's happening?
Shh. The Manchurian Candidate is one of them. I won't tell you which one. Anyway, it is a great club, and it is a great benefit to us. Advertising only covers about 90 to 95% of our expenses. We need the club to do the rest, and I don't know how to turn off that extra. Leo, where is it coming from?
Now with extra Leo.
There you have it. A brand new membership plan for Club Twit. Tell friends, tell family, and thank you to all of our Club Twit members, and thank you in advance for your support, because we want to keep doing what we're doing, and with your help we can. twit.tv/Club Twit. Enough said. I'm going to shut up.
Lisa, you happy?
I just hope she'll stop kicking me. That's all I want.
Yeah.
No, Lisa and I have been going back and forth on it.
Of course.
Yeah, I didn't really want to be committed for a year, but you know what? I am. I'm in. I'm all in. I'm committed.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we can keep doing this, we will. All right. I'm dialing out. It's now your show once again.
Mm-hmm. Well, last week not briefly, actually, we spent a lot of time talking about the Microsoft 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of pressure to kind of write something about this, like a retrospective of some kind. I've been covering the company for 30 years plus and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I wrote a book about this and you can have it for $1, and, or at the time, now it's back up to normal price, whatever. Actually, it might be a little, I think I made the Windows 10 Super, what do you call it, feature. What is it called? My stupid book field guide, less expensive because it's Windows 10. Anyway,
even know that. Okay, go
whatever it's called.
Ask Laurent. Maybe he'll know.
Yeah,
titles are for the week.
The thing I wrote over many years. Do you remember? He'd be like, "Yeah, it's called." He would know exactly.
Now I don't feel bad for forgetting. Sometimes I forget, and I can't. Feel bad.
I can't keep anything in my head anymore. I'm just pushing out childhood memories at this point.
Nice.
So I don't really feel like I have any. Anyone could run down here are the big milestones, the big things that, Windows 95 was a big launch. Remember that? That was huge, But for many years, being kind of a Microsoft guy, right? You'd have to defend yourself to these Apple goons or whoever. And it was always like, they never innovated. They never invented anything, blah, blah, blah. The one thing I would always say about Microsoft, over many years was, actually democratizing tech and bringing tech to the masses is in its own way, maybe the most important innovation of all, because in fact, that's what Apple does today, right? I mean, Apple gets a lot of credit right now for not entering a market until they have something truly differentiated. Yeah. And the result is they don't really invent anything new, but they come in late and they usually do a pretty good job of it.
With a definitive product.
Yeah, Microsoft, we can't really credit them with that exactly, but Microsoft was more of that kind of Commodore Jack Tramiel thing where
they were the commoditizers, right?
Yes, we're going to get rid of the white suits and the lab coats and everything, and we're going to bring this stuff down to the masses, like the Prometheus thing. And that's for me for a long time was the big deal. But I have to say today, honestly, their crowning achievement is, that's still true. I mean, everything I just said is still the case, but it just as a company, Microsoft avoided that thing that so many companies fall for, that happened to IBM, happening right now to Intel. which is you have this one dominant product. You do everything just like that. Nothing else succeeds. The world changes, and then you can't change with it, and you become irrelevant or disappear. They have made amazing shifts in strategy, first with the cloud and now with AI, that has made them or kept them relevant over a period of time when they should have just disappeared, frankly, or at least become irrelevant, right? So I give them a lot of credit for that. Like, that's
compare this to Intel.
pretty amazing.
I mean, arguably, both companies missed mobile.
Yep.
And one of them is, circling the drain, and the other one has pivoted.
Right. Yep. And by the way, Apple did this as well. Apple is maybe the only company I can think of that's done similarly. And by the way, the two biggest companies in the world. It's kind of interesting. It's so I guess there's really not a lot to say. I wrote a thing about it, but it's not a big deal. It's just that to me, their big deal, the thing that they've done, the thing that will be studied, is not some tech product or service or whatever. It's this ability to change with the times. They didn't always do it, right? There was that period in the 2000s where the world was changing web and eventually the cloud, and Google came around and did their stuff, and Amazon was able to do their thing, and Apple had resurgence and took over in the mobile space. And those were maybe markets that Microsoft of a decade earlier might have addressed a little better. But faced with these defeats or whatever, they pivoted and they did a great job. So
yeah, they rolled with it. That's for sure.
Yep. And they're
Ballmer
more
may
successful
miss mobile,
than
but he
ever.
didn't miss cloud. And,
right.
And we don't, I'm going to say the jury's still out on AI. Obviously, Satya's all in. It gets to be his thing that he gets to hang his hat on. But
right.
I don't think it's going to disappear. I think we've gotten to the bottom of the trough of disillusionment in this crazy hype train right now. And we're on our way back.
Have we
up,
really?
We managed not to actually.
I think this is a new kind of roller coaster, and we might have, we'll see. But
might be many
there's
when it
not
goes
new
under the
opportunities
water,
for stupid still coming.
Yeah.
We do seem to be leveling off in some respects and saying, what's the practical thing you can do here?
Right. Yeah. And even just in the confines of Windows, if you look at that tracker, a lot of that stuff is AI based, right? I mean, as it would be. It's a big focus. And, tied to this, not coincidentally, is this Microsoft consumer AI event they had, right? Last week on the campus. And I was invited. I didn't go. Mustafa Suleiman, who is now leading this part of the company, which is a new part of the company, led the presentation. So I think it was his first big public moment.
Said some interesting things, I thought.
He also had some interesting protesters.
Really?
That was at the 50th.
Oh, that's the person they fired, right?
Yeah, there's two of them.
Warmonger.
The employees interrupted his speech and then interrupted the three CEOs thing to complain about, Palestine and Israel and all this stuff. Stuff that's central to our industry. Anyway, it was, whatever. It's a big world event, and I get it. But I was I talked to my wife about this. Just like, is this? What's your take on this? And it's like I feel like we both felt like there might be ways to protest that maybe weren't against your employee contract and maybe illegal. I don't know, but.
Yeah, I question the effectiveness of it. I appreciate their sentiment. Suleiman said, I hear your protest,
Yes. Gates, the way Gates handled the other one was crazy.
They never said a word. Right?
He just said, okay. And then just went back to what he was doing. It had never happened.
That time it was the second go around, the audience all booed, right?
Interesting.
The first round, the first one, everyone was.
Well, I think everyone was
so
shocked. Right. It's like, what's happening?
Because that was an employee only event. These were employees.
That's right. And
then the second time, people reacted more quickly. I
think, you could have done a respectful thing where some group of employees is outside with signs and the reporters have to walk by them and they see it. And CEO could have acknowledged this and said, look, we disagree with their sentiment, but we also respect them as human beings and want to give them the right to voice their opinions. And that's not the way that went down. But that unfortunately kind of falls back on those people who protested, not necessarily on Microsoft, because we don't know what Microsoft would have done if they had been given the opportunity, to
I think,
handle it. But
first of all,
it's a tough one.
You got to respect somebody who believes strongly enough that they're going to risk their job and ooze to state their opinion. I think that's their right to do.
Leo,
so.
you're talking to people who have supported Microsoft for entire careers. Of course, we know what that's like.
Well, but I've been reading this really provocative, shall we say, book by Alex Karp, the founder of Palantir, called The Technological Republic. And while I don't agree with everything he says, one of the things he says is if you want to defend the West, technology companies have spent all this energy in this century on crap consumer products, gadgets, selling better ads, surveilling consumers. If they would bend their intelligence and their abilities towards protecting our nation and promoting our national identity, that might be better. Now, whether you agree with that or not, I think, there were protests, of course, at Microsoft for military contracts. Google famously canceled the Maven contract because the engineers said no. He said this is, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is part of the problem for me because Microsoft at one point refused to sell facial recognition technology to law enforcement because it was biased against people with darker skin. Right.
So they took this moral stance at this point, and it seemed like the right thing to do. But now every tech company, it's not Microsoft, but we're all going 2 feet in to bow down to despots so that we don't get regulated, hopefully, and get to
preserve our profits in this case. Yeah.
And expand them. Yeah. So it's a little less morally defensible.
That's what I think.
Maybe a lot less. I don't.
But I do think companies, and I include Microsoft in this, and maybe they're doing it, should have a dialogue with their engineers because their engineers, they have to, they're reliant on the engineers to write this stuff and write it well. Yep. So they should have a dialogue. And I think there is a case to be made on both sides. And this debate needs to happen, not somebody shouting at the CEO and getting fired, not the CEO saying, oh, well, never mind.
This is a bad
real
timing
conversation.
Just because of the way everyone is kind of kissing the ring right now. And it's
maybe now's not the time.
It's maybe not the right time.
This book was written before the election.
I'm just thinking about the protesters, but
have you read the letters?
Yes.
So, I mean, they knew they were going to be fired.
Of course.
They were actually one of them. One of them anyway.
One of them gave their 2-week notice. Guys, you either quit. You don't give you 2-week notice, and they were since fired. They're like, no, you're fired.
Yeah, you can't quit. I fire you.
It's just, jeez.
But I think that neither way of handling it is the right way to handle it. I think these companies really need to have a parlay because they need the engineers.
So we don't know. We don't know what dialogue took place, but that was without knowing. My thing was, I feel like they should have given Microsoft the opportunity to formally allow them to address this in a way that would be okay with the company as well, and respect their rights, maybe, or their opinions, or whatever it is.
There's a case to be made that just as in the 20th century, big tech. We wouldn't have the internet. We wouldn't have had the moon missions.
Yes.
We wouldn't have had the atomic bomb.
DARPA led to the internet, and
if engineers hadn't worked with government in the national interest. Now, maybe we can no longer agree what the national interest is. That's possible.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the discussion now, isn't it?
Well, and that's one of the arguments against this book. And again, it was written before the election. Is okay, fine, but remember, you're giving these tools. I mean, Palantir does basically AI warfare. You're giving these tools to.
Well, you said the co-founder of Palantir, and I was like, no.
Yeah. Well, he's a very smart guy. I mean, he's not a dummy.
So I don't know if I mentioned this, but the book about Meta that was written by the woman,
Careless People,
is mostly non-technical.
You did mention that last piece. Yes.
So did you read this yet?
I haven't gotten to it. In fact, let me go down and get it.
The central premise is that Meta is doing everything it can to bow down to the Chinese because this is the biggest market in the world by far. And I would guess that Tesla's they're giving everything up to China that you can imagine, Apple's including all of our stuff, not just against the people who live in China, but they're going to give them all of our data as well.
Yeah.
So there are, one might say, I don't know, possibly national security implications to this. But the reason that Meta is doing the open source LLM thing is because that will benefit China as much as anybody, and it will help them get ahead in a world where big tech is actively, and the United States is actively trying to keep them down. And that is a messed up accusation that reads as true. I don't know the details of this.
It's apparently true.
It's crazy.
It's true.
But that's crazy, right? I mean, so that company is horrible. And I'm kind of handcuffed here with a lot of things with Twitter and with Facebook, where I just don't see an out for myself, but I see people leaving and taking this kind of moral stand. And I sort of respect it. I mean, I understand it, certainly, but yeah, so these protesters, that at the Microsoft thing, and then this, you see what big tech is doing and how horrible they really are. And it makes you kind of question everything, it's just horrible.
Yeah. Anyway, I think there should be a conversation, and I think companies understand they're dependent on their engineers, and I
hope they understand they're dependent on their democracy as well,
and their democracy. Yeah, and so
that
traditionally corporate governance has not been democratic, right? But
traditionally
balance
big
of power
tech though
shifted
has
a little
been
bit.
democratic, and that's shifted a lot in the past 4 years, right? So. And there are reasons for that, and I don't actually agree with all of them, but whatever. Whatever. Our world's changing, so I don't know. We got to figure this out.
It's tough when things are in flux.
Yeah,
because you kind of throwing the cards up in the air and you don't know how they're going to land. So I recognize that also.
That's how big search
in the
works.
meantime, there's this healthy number, this unhealthy number of generated problems that don't give us time to work on real problems.
Well, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Microsoft has hosted a consumer
So
AI.
anyway, Microsoft had this AI day that was supposed to be a really big thing. So what came out of this is what I would call a metric ton of new AI features for Copilot across the various places that you access Copilot. So the Copilot vision that all of a sudden we're testing in the Insider program everywhere was something they announced was coming to the Copilot apps for Windows and mobile. And this is where you can, on Windows, it's a little different. You kind of click, it's sort of like click to do. You click on something and then it goes into Copilot and it tells you more about that thing, whatever it might be. On a phone, that would be a lot more useful because you can point your camera out at the world and see things. But, Copilot search in Bing, which I wrote about separately because they talked about it at the event, but then actually released it. So you can go see this thing on the web if you want. Copilot actions on the web. So there are actions in Windows, and those are the things where Copilot in Windows can interact with Windows features and apps and app features and so forth. But actions on the web are what gives this thing this agentic capability where it can interact with web services like Expedia, OpenTable, VRBO, whatever, right? And so there's going to be more and more of that stuff coming online all the time. And I think the extensibility stuff is really important to all these AI chat bots or whatever we're calling these things now. But if you were to go back over the past 6 months and look at all of the little AI advances, whether they came out of Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever it is, and then looked at what they announced last week, it's everything that everyone else has ever announced, but with the word Copilot in front of it. So like Notebook LM, which is the Google feature that makes those kind of AI podcasts, is now a feature called Copilot Podcasts, right? So they're kind of doing what everyone is doing.
Is it using this? But it's not using Notebook LM. It's using
it's using their own stuff. Yeah. Well, see that. Yes,
that's another question. Yeah, what models are they using? Do they reveal that?
No. So
because Microsoft has their own,
right? So two things. Says coming into the show that I was talking with Laurent about this, and I said that one of the things I really want to see is whether they talk about that. Are they going to say we're starting to use our own models now, or we are using our own, whatever it is? And they did not say that. However, we just mentioned the build session list, right? And if you look through there, you'll see that bringing other models into various copilots is a big part of this show that's coming up. So the one I can remember is the Copilot runtime for Windows. You can mix and match, or you're going to be, it's not out yet, but you're going to be able to mix and match models there. We've seen this in GitHub Copilot already, right? You can choose now if using that. I think it defaults to, I think it's OpenAI, whatever version, but you can switch to Anthropic and I think some other choices as well. And I think that's going to be a thing, and that's fine. But I think we've talked about this. Ideally, this would be orchestrated for you. That in any interaction you have with Copilot, wherever it is, whatever the context is, it should do the thing that's best to give you the best results, and you don't have to think about that. This is a problem that Sam Altman's brought up for ChatGPT. He says, you click on the model choice and it's like 12 things there. It's like, this is confusing. Just look at the thing I'm doing and give me the thing that makes the most sense. Like, that's where it's going. And for Microsoft, to Leo's question, I think increasingly that will involve them using their own models where it makes sense to do.
Interesting. Yeah, I think they don't want to be dependent on ChatGPT.
Yep.
On OpenAI,
yeah.
right?
Well, it's not, they're not particularly volatile or anything. I mean, I feel like there's yeah, I know. Whatever you thought of our industry, you could magnify it with those guys. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So there's that. Copilot search and Bing, interesting. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. But the one unique thing they're bringing to the table, which I sort of appreciate as someone who publishes content on the web, in addition to providing you with an AI overview of whatever it is you asked, or the exact answer to some exact question, and then at the bottom citing the sources and all that, which is fine, they're actually hyperlinking each parts of sentences to go to the original source where it got that thing from, right? So the idea, the hope is that this will lead to more click-throughs, because people will read that summary and it will be, linked, and they'll say, well, I want to learn more about that thing. And they'll go to the original source. So, good idea. It's Bing. So, it's like whatever that is, 17%, whatever, some small number of the internet searches, but it seems like a step in the right direction, because this is why Google held on to AI for so long, generative AI, because they saw that this could hurt their advertising revenue model from Google search. They didn't want to screw it up, right? So these companies have been kind of trying to figure that out. And
this is innovator's dilemma, right?
Yeah. It seems reasonable. I will have to see how it works in real life, And then I wrote this. This is just kind of a weird set of coincidences. I wrote this article that I called Stupider. which is a great word. And it's just based on this notion that you hear someone say, or writer say, whatever, AI is making us stupider. There was a headline I riffed on Twitter a month or two ago that was something like, using AI to write software code is going to make developers stupider. And I was like, it's been out for 10 seconds. Why don't you give it a minute? We're rushing to judgment here. Or, Microsoft sponsored a study that was in part said something like, it didn't say it this way, but AI is going to make people stupider. Yeah. The thing is, you could point to any technology through history and you will find the people saying this exact thing, right?
Yeah. The printing
ballpoint pen is going to make us stupid. There was I misquote this all the time. I don't know the exact context of this anymore, but in the show Deadwood, which was on HBO, fantastic show, that search engine guy sitting there on his porch and he's watching something occur on the horizon, drinking his coffee, and this number one guy comes in. He's like, what's going on down there? And he goes, oh, those are poles for the telegraph. He's like, what's a telegraph? And he's like, well, it's like the mail, but you can respond instantly. And so he does one of those pregnant pause things. He drinks the coffee and he goes, why would anyone want to respond instantly? You need to take the time to, figure out your answer, right? Like the way we correspond now made sense to him because he's of that era, right? So the guy's like kind of like a mobster type, and the number one guy says, do you want me to tear him down? And he's like, no, leave him up. It's fine.
I love Al Swearingen. That's a really great conversation.
It's just excellent. And and that's other than his decision to keep it up, because a lot of people would have been like, no, tear it down. We'll do the holiday thing. This is just I think it's like generational bias. Like the car is maybe the best example for people. Like when cars first came out, you had to be a mechanic to own a car. You couldn't own a car. Otherwise, you had to know how the thing worked. When that stopped being true, the guys that did know cars that were mechanics hated the fact that normal people could now own cars. They were like, you don't even know how the engine works, blah, blah, you know, whatever. As stick shift, same thing, right? Automatics take off, obviously, because they're automatic. People are losing their minds now over this notion of like self-driving cars. And like, you're never gonna, I'm going to drive. I like to drive. You know, it's like, yeah, you're the reason we have traffic, idiot. The people like you cause this butterfly effect that if this thing was actually controlled by computers, everything would just be on time. Like you're of your age. Like you just get stuck. You think like it's always been this way, but especially with technology, it's been this way for 10 seconds, but you're so stuck in this rut. You have a hard time, you know, seeing your way out of it.
I remember being in a university class, talking about futures, and we talked about automated driving, and one of the students put up their hand and says, "But if we don't know how to drive, what happens if the computers fail?" It's like, we'll all be dead anyway. Exactly. You know, driving is going to be the least of your concerns. That's
a fascinating way to approach that problem. You know, like, but what if? Like, but what if you have a heart attack while you're driving? What's going to happen to the people around you? I mean, what if? In a weird coincidence, so tying together the last thing we talked about and the next thing we're going to talk about, the next major topic, is at this AI event last week, Microsoft showed a demo, and you can actually go see it now. I linked to it in the show notes somewhere. Mm-hmm. They used basically vibe coding to create a Quake II that runs inside a Copilot. Okay. So this is causing people to lose their minds, right? So this
is making Altair Basic didn't do it. So
right. So first of all, just because they've gotten charges of theft, Microsoft owns this game, right? You understand that, right? Like id Software, which made this game, was purchased by Bethesda, which is now owned by Microsoft. So was
Carmack unhappy, the guy who wrote it?
No, this is part of the story. So some guy gets on Twitter, and this is not, I don't mean to, I'm only singling this guy out because Carmack replied to him.
Yes.
But
and
this is the complaint
too, by the way.
Yes. Oh, of course. The complaint was, this is an abomination, right? We're losing developer jobs, and you're doing this, like, and then there's all these people, like the way people chime into this is astonishing. Yeah. I put some in the notes just because these are amazing. So people are kind of responding to this guy the way I am talking about AI and about AI in general. Like the goal is games, not jobs, right? Mm-hmm. Jobs don't inherently deserve to exist. The goal of technology is to cut the number of jobs and increase efficiency. No one cares about your jobs. Like, I mean, people do care about their jobs. If the goal is jobs, we should just dig dishes with spoons, not tractors, right? It's like, which is the point. Like, where does this end? You know
what? You're going to use spoon technology? That takes away people's jobs.
What about your hands? Oh, well, your hands good enough, princess. Get them in the dirt. Yeah,
so exactly. This is an AI generated level is basically what's going on, right?
Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing. The best comment, though, think about video games today. Video games today made the biggest video games are made by these giant companies, hundreds of millions of dollars. The budgets of Hollywood movies, and if they are successful, the revenues of Hollywood movies or more. I mean, video games actually make more money than Hollywood. This guy says, wasn't Quake made by a handful of people?
It was a very small group,
and it
right?
was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This will enable that to be the case again, right? Like this is the Exchange server job I always talk about. The guy's like, you mean to tell me the last thing I'm going to do is hand off my Exchange, install to Microsoft? Yeah, your company is not here so you can serve email.
Right.
Email is just a tool you use. You sell widgets or whatever your company does. You're not here for email. Like we've lost track of the point of this stuff.
Well, and also this is not. I mean, creating a Quake II level. Mm-hmm. Is probably easier than writing a short story or a paragraph of text. It's just
but you understand it's going to do that stuff too, right? So, I've not heard anything about the next Call of Duty game. I don't know what it is. I know it's going to be more of the same, right? Most of the work's already been done. Like what we need are, I guess, for the single player game, a story, characters, arc, whatever, and then all the assets that go along with that. And then what we need for multiplayer are game types, which you already have, and then levels.
Levels, right? That's
level
true.
design. We can examine levels, see which are the most popular, literally by usage, and figure out what makes those things good. Some sense of balance and whatever. Like one side's not off. It's just like weapon balance, same thing. AI is going to be really good at that stuff, and I'm not saying, I'm sort of saying, I guess at some point, maybe completely AI generated, whatever, but it will happen in stages or whatever. But the goal here is to make better games. And if this can do that, and it can, this is smart. And as Richard said, John Carmack's response to this is basically what I said, but more eloquently. I mean, this is just as the guy, someone else pointed this out on Twitter. He said, you're telling this to the guy who came out with game engines that were so much more sophisticated, years ahead of everyone else, and then released them openly so everyone else could copy them. What do you think he's going to say to this?
Yeah.
Of course he thinks this is great.
Do you know how many programmers he put out of work by giving away that engine? Are you kidding?
Right. But how many great games came out of the fact that this engine was now available, right? Or the source code or whatever it was. Or in the beginning, it was extensibility. Like they would do Doom and, you can make your own WAD files for Doom or whatever. And then in the next version, they're like, okay, now here's an editor you can use that will help you make these things even more easily. And now we're doing 3D, and here's how you can do it, in 3D for Quake. This stuff is astonishing. Like it's just,
and it's how progress has come all along.
Yep. Yeah. So it was, again, just a weird coincidence. I didn't see or know anything about this John Carmack thing when I wrote it. And then in the wake of that, I was like, yeah, okay, here's a great example. Like there you go. Perfect. Right. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure the next Call of Duty will be terrible, but I'm also sure that as we go forward, they can be made better.
Humans can make it terrible just as well as AI.
I think they excel at making it terrible. Yeah. So, maybe someone at Activision will just talk to ChatGPT and say, hey, what have we been doing wrong? And they were like, you don't have enough time. So let me just highlight the top 100, and whatever, and go, just fix this stuff.
Bug fixing would be good, right?
Yeah,
that seems like a good thing.
Here's what would be good. This is my Call of Duty experience. I play, as many as 5 times a week, maybe. Let's say 2 to 5 times a week. I would say on average about once a week. I'm like, all right, I got a couple hours to kill. I got nothing to do. I'm going to do this thing. Open the laptop, run the game. It's like, please wait, stalling 132 megabyte or 132 gigabyte update. What the fuck? What? And God, could you just do this while you're asleep? Why, and then it takes 2 hours to update the game,
Yeah.
So that's a little.
Yeah. Maybe AI could do that too.
Yeah.
Is there anything it can't do?
I don't know.
I was reading Carmack's reply. I think right on. This is what tools do.
Right. That's right.
Universally. He says, will programmers be around in the future? I don't know. There are fewer farmers than ever because of farm implements, farm tools.
But no, that's a great example too. Like the way you make farming ever more efficient. And unfortunately, the end game is factory farms and seeds that have a patent associated with them that blow into people's farms, and then they get sued by these giant companies. So like everything can be made terrible, but the aim is to make it better.
Does it? I'll have to ask Corey this. Does it always have to end in shitification? Is the question.
I'm going to talk to this just to a minor degree.
All right.
The answer I believe is no, but the answer real world is almost always yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, but I feel like it
often does.
It pretty much does. Yeah.
The exception proves the rule.
We need that Star Trek future where there's no money and no companies, essentially, right? And
we can all just make Call of Duty levels.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to make the Call of Duty level I want to play. Exactly.
Be the
not
Call
hard
of Duty
to
you want to be.
Imagine a world where machines write music and romance novels as well as humans.
This is, I'll take it a step further. We are 2 seconds away from those things winning awards.
Right.
And 5 seconds away from that being almost the only way that those things happen. Not really, right? I mean, not really. People will always create, right? But I'm such a smartass that in the front matter to my most recent book, it literally says, so stupid, no AI was used or harmed in the creation of this book. Oh, that's not going to age well.
No,
that was. I've still not really. I've not actually used AI for the book, but that's not the point. I should.
Well, did you use Grammarly?
Yeah. Well, I used language still, fair enough. Yeah, so spell checking.
But they didn't
and
call it AI
checking.
at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
That's part of the problem is what is AI?
Maybe
right?
Maybe what I meant was generative AI.
Yeah, you didn't use generative.
I didn't use it for anything ever related to writing, like the creation of words or whatever, or the rewriting of words or anything like that. But you know what? That's really short-sighted on my part because that could be better.
Imagine putting your time into more valuable things because automation can take care of the less valuable things.
Exactly.
Right now, though, of course, you have to put a lot of time into AI and using it fruitfully, almost as much as you would put into actually doing the work. So,
yeah, but I hopefully the aim here is that you're beginning the automation process.
Yeah, it's time well invested.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Learning to play the piano, learning to play AI. But in the end, you can make music.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Okay.
All I can make right now is lavender blue dilly dilly. But I'm getting better. I just learned Alouette de Jardin.
Jeez. That's tough.
It's a long haul.
That's like basic language with the line numbers,
It's really similar.
Hello.
Learning to play the piano is really similar to learning to read, I feel like. I am at a kindergarten level, learning to read. Right. But it's kind of fun at my age just to learn something brand new.
I applaud you, Leo. I think that's awesome.
It's
you guys,
just really fun.
You know who Bill Burr is, the comedian?
Yeah, I love Bill.
Yeah.
So this is maybe
a fine commentator on our
yeah. No, he's incredible. So he 5-7 years ago, whatever, he made he started learning to play the drums. So he plays in some kind of a band and he's playing the drums, So some talk show host complimented him. And he says, he goes, what the world was looking for was for a middle-aged white guy to learn an instrument, but fair enough. I think anything that like that, it could be coding, writing, painting.
I'm learning coding too. I'm learning Emacs too.
This is
learning
really
things is great.
This is super healthy for your brain.
I don't want to ever get to the point where I have nothing to learn. That's an awful thought.
Yeah. Well, and it's what is aging but losing the desire to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I have noticed, Richard. Neither of you guys are anywhere near this, but as one gets older, one loses one's motivation. I think back where, I'm kind of doing this now because Sunday is our 20th anniversary TWiT.
Right.
And I don't think 20 years later I could start TWiT again.
Right. That's exactly right.
But is that more to do with the wisdom of knowing just how much work you're committing yourself to? Right.
Well, having done it like this, I would do that differently.
Yeah, we do these things not because we thought they were hard, but we thought they would be easy.
Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah, not because they're hard, but because we thought they would be easier. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I also it's a lack. I just don't care anymore. It's
that's
like
right.
my motivation.
No, that's it. So
I lost my mojo.
She misunderstood me, but I had this conversation recently with my wife, and I compared this to when your kids become teenagers and they become unbearable for about 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And by the time they have to go off to college, or in the olden days, they would go off and just go off. But now they're leaving. You're both ready for this separation.
Oh gosh,
you need this. This is a life phase. It's important.
Yeah, they're pushing you away at the same time.
And you are pushing them even harder back.
Get out of here.
So I feel like what you just described, and this is how I said the same thing. I said I think this is a natural phase. You just at some point you're like I'm done. I don't care. I just don't care. Yeah. I'm done with it. This would have involved me when I was 35 forever.
Exactly.
And now I'm like,
exactly.
What time is it? Yeah, I think I'm done. I don't.
Can I watch TV now?
She's like, what do you? She's like,
do we have Jello for dessert?
Digging a grave. I'm like, no, I'm gonna read a book. Like, what do you know? Just, I don't know.
I think that's true. And you're
young. I think it's very natural.
But I think it is, and it's what I've noticed. It's just a stage of life.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a certain age necessarily, but different people have different motivation, different things. And we're in this industry that we're in.
Well, you live in the land of mañana. Let's face it.
Well, by the way, these are the hardest working people on earth. I don't know who started
that's
that
the
nonsense.
joke, isn't it?
That is the least
when they
accurate
take a
description
break,
of
it's because
people.
they've done more that day than you could have done in a month.
I would love to find out that they were the ones who propagated this myth.
Yeah.
That that would give me the greatest pleasure of all time.
Tell
You
those
have never
gringos
seen.
we don't care.
These people get up. I
know.
We comment on this all day long. So if you walk up and down the street, we're on all these restaurants we love. We know all the people. We will come home. We will go out early in the morning, just walking, whatever. We'll come back late at night after having gone out to eat and gone out to the bar. We know everybody. And there's a sandwich shop. I just use one example. These guys, same people, they're always there. They are there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 to 11 o'clock at night. Same people every day, doing the same thing. Repeat, rinse, wash, repeat.
And they're fairly cheerful about it.
They are delightful.
Yeah.
And I have,
and the sandwiches are outstanding.
They're just one little store. They are great, but wonderful human beings.
I'm so desperate.
One of a million of these things.
Move to Mexico
people
City.
with their little trash carts or their taco stands, rolling out in the morning, tearing them down at night. Every day, repeat. You have never seen people work as hard as you. They don't. I don't think anyone on earth works as hard as they do.
Love that.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why we're talking about that, but okay.
Well, I'm just noticing that I've lost my mojo.
Oh,
somebody said in the Discord I should the Twitch.
I don't think that's true,
Twitch,
Leo.
I should take testosterone.
Yes. That's right.
It's one thing to look at your Windows Weekly, but I've been on a couple other shows with you. You're kind of up to stuff.
Yeah, I'm up to stuff. I guess that's a good way to put it.
No, it's important to stay.
You're arguing with me and Jeff Jarvis at the same time. It takes a lot of nerve, man.
Well, wait till later where it's Cory Doctorow. Oh boy,
no kidding.
So the good thing about Jeff Jarvis is that I just agree with him pretty much en masse.
Jeff's great. I love Jeff.
I love him, but
you and I have the same relationship. It's like brothers where we tussle.
Yeah.
But we respect each other and we have a great time doing it.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Yes. No, and I would hate to disagree with him.
Yeah,
because I would immediately doubt myself.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if he challenged me on anything,
for Richard,
I'd
by
be
the
like,
way. I feel the same way about Richard.
Yeah.
Richard, I just know he's going to say, well, as a matter of fact, Leo.
Right. And you're like, shit. The first guy the guy who got me into writing, and I was going to become a software developer. So we were writing a book about Visual Basic 3, but the guy was a genius. And back then you would print out everything, and we sat down, we didn't have laptops. It was 1994 or something. I'm sitting across from him at the kitchen table, and he's going through the papers, and then you see him, his finger stops, and he goes, "Sure about this?" And I'm like, "I was." Not anymore, I'm not. And then he got up, and he went into the other room. He's like, "Clack." He goes, "Nope." And he comes back, and he's like, "Verp, verp, verp." He's like, "This is all right."
Love it.
Like, okay.
We all need that. We all need that person.
You need that person.
Yeah.
Yes. Everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone does. Yep.
AI recaps for book series and
just
Kindle.
Two small things and this is it's funny because this inspired part of that stupider post I wrote, which was when you watch a show on Netflix, right? So for example, this month the show You is going to come back on Netflix. This is the show my wife and I really like a lot of these long form series. The first season or two is really good and it kind of goes downhill a little bit after that.
Yeah.
I don't remember almost anything about the previous season. But what they do is they show you that they do a
previously in this book series.
Yeah, so they're doing this on Kindle.
I love this idea.
And they're doing it with AI. And this is not why you buy a Kindle. It's not the marquee feature where everyone's like, "Oh my God, this is it." It's a little thing, but that's the point. It's you see this and you're like, "Yes, I need this." If anyone is still reading a book, God love you. And if you can pay attention across a long book, if you can pay attention across a series of books, let me tell you something. You're a unicorn. God love you. But most of us need this.
How do you turn this on? Where does this?
It appears automatically. You have to get the latest software. Right now, it's only on the Kindle device. It's coming to iOS Kindle app soon. And they haven't said anything about that beyond there, but it will come. It will come everywhere at some point. But Yeah, it will just be made available if it's there for that. If it detects it's a book series, in Kindle, I think this is by default book series, just like well, they don't really do magazines anymore, but what else? Like comic book series like this, where it's one icon, it's like a folder essentially, and you go in there, and then you see the constituent parts of it. There's a recap option in there that should just appear. I haven't seen it, but personally. And then just real quick, GitHub Copilot was updated because it's updated every 10 seconds. The big thing to me here is that this thing that was in preview is now available generally I think it's Visual Studio Code only right now, but it will do that project level code review, the thing I'd been using with Cursor. So if you want to get that type of thing, you're already using GitHub Copilot. There it is. So cool.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that brings us right briskly along to, I believe, the Xbox segment. Before we get to that, though, I would like to say that you, dear viewer and listener, you brilliant person, you have tuned in Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. And, of course, his books are at leanpub.com. Completely written by humans with no AI intervention. And
asterisk.
See footnote for disclaimers.
It's probably going to change.
Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah.
And Mr. Richard Campbell of Run As Radio and .NET Rocks. It's great to have you both on. Great to have you watching. If you want to watch the show live, we do it on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. And the streams are multivariate. There is Discord, of course, for our club members, but we've also got YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, for as long as it lasts, X.com, Kick. So we want to put all the Nazi things together. Facebook. Oh, wait a minute. Let's add that one. And LinkedIn. There's a Microsoft property. Anyway, 8 different places you can watch. You pick the one you want, but you don't have to watch live. The show is also available as a podcast, as you probably know. You can download it from Paul's site or my site, twit.tv/WW for Windows Weekly. There is, if you go to that page, a link to the YouTube channel for the video. That's nice for sharing clips, little things that you want to tell friends about. Great way to spread the word about our show. And of course, it is a podcast, so you can just use any podcast client and subscribe. If you would do us a favor, though, leave a review. It turns out those make a big difference in our audience, and our even advertisers pay attention to them. 5 stars preferred. Okay, you can knock us down a star if you feel like it, but it would really help if you like the show to leave us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast client. And thank you in advance. Once again, if you're just tuning in, we have restored yearly Club TWiT memberships. So if you are on a monthly membership, and if you're a member, you are, go to your membership, your subscription page, and turn on yearly if you want to make it once a year instead of 12 times a year. Back we go to the show and the world-renowned Xbox segment.
Oh, boy.
It's all yours, Paulie.
Time to pad this sucker out.
It's a big bar.
Yeah. So Microsoft has been doing an annual Xbox games showcase each year since E3 bit the dust. Actually, since before that, I think. So they're doing another one this year. It'll be on Sunday, June 8th. And then they're going to do a kind of what they're calling a deep dive into a game called The Elder Worlds 2, which is the next game from Obsidian Entertainment, which is like a studio that made Avowed, that game that just came out recently. The focus here is on games that they believe are going to ship soon. So, for example, Fable is being rebooted, but that was delayed to 2026. Probably not going to be a part of this.
Fun title, though.
Yeah. And like Call of Duty and like end of year, probably not going to see any of that stuff. But they have talked about a few games that are potentially, could be in here. New Gears of War game, prequel, Perfect Dark remake, State of Decay 3. Kind of reading like Hollywood. It's all remakes and sequels.
That's the normal.
But that's the world. Yeah. So we'll see, but it's usually pretty good. This is not the event that Leo and I watched, although, well, maybe it was. I feel like this was in August this particular year, but there was that year we did the live coverage of the Microsoft game thing, and it was the new Halo at the time, and it looked like garbage time, and it was terrible. and we were like, "Those graphics are going to get better, right?" I thought they were going to pull a Wizard of Oz things where Wizard of Oz goes from dark to color, or black and white to color. I thought they were going to go from like 16-bit graphics to like the real thing. We're like, see how much better it is, and it never happened. It was like, oh, and then they delayed it. So anyway, they're trying not to do that anymore. So we'll see. That should be pretty good. Microsoft Edge Game Assist is actually something I'm trying to use, and I can't get it to work on the computers that I'm playing games on. I don't know why.
What's it supposed to do for you?
Yeah, so what you're supposed to do is go into Microsoft Edge, the browser, enable it, and then you can go into the game bar. So you can hit like Windows key plus G, or if you have an Xbox controller, the white button, the light button, and it comes up, and then you can add it. It's a widget, and if you've ever used Game Bar, there's like a main bar, and then the widgets are these separate little floating windows. So the one I use most frequently is the performance one, and you can turn everything off except for frames per second, pin it so it's always on the screen. And then for games where you can't see the frames per second, this shows you the frames per second, right? So it's pretty useful. What this thing is a mini version of the browser that you can also pin to be on screen. So it can kind of be on the side next to the game you're playing. And because I don't know the figure, but some huge percentage of people who play games on PCs will pause the game, go to either a different device or just switch to a browser, type in, how do I get past this thing on level 2 or whatever, and Google it or whatever to figure out the game. So you can do that stuff. But they also have enhanced it to know about specific games. So there is a website you can go to see what all the games are. But in the most recent update, they added support for Assassin's Creed Shadows and the idea, and other games, World of Warcraft, Genshin, Impact, et cetera. There's a few others. But the idea is that you're in the game at a particular point, and if you bring this thing up, it will know where you are in the game and then say you need help. It will just proactively try to help you. But there's a big list of games. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is one of them, which is why I was like, okay, let me see what this thing can do, and I can't get it to right. I haven't got it to work. But the latest Indiana Jones game, the new one, is in there. Minecraft, Overwatch 2, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, that new game from last year, is one of the games. It's probably about 25, 30. But it doesn't have to be enhanced. It will still work. So they've been expanding this thing. It will support some extensions now, including like sidebar apps, like Edge sidebar apps that will work in there automatically. There's some new tab work they've done to make it work more like the browser does, actually. Just, kind of improving it. So there's a big update to this that just went out. Kind of interesting. I want to try this. Like I just haven't done this. I haven't done it yet, but someday, and then maybe we'll come to the Xbox, right? They showed off something called, I think it was just called Gaming Copilot or something like that, Copilot for gaming. But at some point, this will definitely come to the console as well, but in whatever form, right? Last week, we talked about some of the new games coming to Game Pass across PC, console, and cloud for the first half of April. Since then, they announced GTA 5 is coming back to the Game Pass library. Starting next week, in about 1 week from yesterday, I guess. And
is it a refresh version, or it's the existing? It
is on PC. So the version going Xbox is the one we had from before. The one going to PC, this is the first time it's been on PC Game Pass, and it's actually an enhanced version of the game that they released just if you own the PC
game.
Yep,
man,
I know.
And this is the year GTA 6 is supposed to show up, and they're still milking GTA 5.
Hey, you gotta love something like this. Is like being the Beatles now, right? Yeah, exactly. Like your music catalog just keeps going. Yeah. This is the second best-selling game of all time. 210 million copies sold since 2013.
What sold more than that? I thought that was number one.
I thought it was Minecraft. What's the best selling?
Possible. Yeah.
I think it might be Minecraft.
Might be Minecraft. Yeah.
Game of all. Let's see. Bum bum bum.
What else could it be? Civ, maybe?
No, it's Minecraft.
It's got to be Minecraft.
350 million.
Everybody in Hollywood was shocked that the Minecraft movie.
Yeah, because you've seen the trailer. It looks ridiculous.
It probably is ridiculous.
It looks terrible.
But what they underestimated was how much people of a certain age love Minecraft. And it turns out the same people who go to movies still.
Yeah.
And almost generational now, right?
It's generational.
Yeah. I just think it looks terrible. Like I don't.
Of course it does.
It's a video game movie.
It probably is terrible.
It's a
But if you love Minecraft, you're gonna see it. It's
The Rock
Well,
was
at
in a
least
movie version of Doom, right? And there's a
was
scene
terrible.
in the game
Yeah.
where you do a first person view where you're looking down like you do in a game, and it was ridiculous, but it was like, okay, like, you know, you're at least respecting the original or whatever. It's like, it was like, but this guy in a
I think
pink
it's also
jumpsuit running around.
A generation that grew up on Jumanji, so they like Jack Black. I think Jason Momoa is a suitable
If you like
replacement
Jack
for The
Black,
Rock.
there might actually be something wrong with you. I'm, you know, like, you might actually want to see a doctor.
But he'll probably go with you to the movie anyway.
I'm not going to go to the movie because I am of a different generation, but I will sit in my leather lounger and watch it at home.
It'll be on an airplane sooner or later.
It's a good airplane movie. Yeah.
What was that? There was a video game movie that came out last year that was a bomb. Borderlands.
Yeah.
So my wife
Which
and
I did watch on an
Great game.
airplane.
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was fine. And by the way, Jack Black was in that too. Actually, he was the voice of the little robot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was really dumped on. But I thought it was okay. And then there was, of course, that the TV show that was on Amazon for Fallout, which was amazing. Like that
Was fantastic,
amazing.
and going to get another season. Like
I know, I can't
good.
wait. I thought that was so
They did
well
a great
done.
job of it.
Yep, fantastic. So it can be done. You know,
This
you can
is
do it.
how generations diverge.
It's generational bias. It's what I was talking about earlier. You kids, your stupid
kids.
Minecraft movie. No one's going to watch that crap.
My 21-year-old cannot wait. He's not going to go see it in the theater though, but he is
well, then
very
you
excited
can wait,
about it.
Leo.
But the thing,
I guess
the
he
thing
can
with the
wait.
Minecraft movie will be how many people go to it more than once. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, a
for
lot.
nostalgia reasons, everybody's going to go once.
It was a very expensive movie. It was hundreds of millions of dollars, but it's already grossed more than $500 million.
All they needed was the
trillion.
Commodore 64 to render this thing. What are they doing? I don't
Best-selling game,
I know.
best-selling movie.
There you
There you go. I
Legit.
There you
coincidental.
go.
Which begs the question: where's the GTA 5 movie?
Actually, that'd be. I would go
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah,
Huh.
I might go see that.
it's got to be
who's in it.
It's got to be in development somewhere.
Sure, it is.
Sure, it is.
You want to? Is that it? Are we
No,
done
I
with
got
the Xbox?
a couple of Switch
Switch 2
things
stuff,
to mention. One is that it looks like the chipset that's in the Switch 2 is pretty good. Like
Oh.
NVIDIA's involved with the graphics.
I would order one.
Yeah,
but
4K
I
when it's
can't.
plugged in. I know. It will do. It has dedicated cores for graphics, tensor cores for ray tracing,
Wow.
and it also supports deep learning supersampling, DLSS. So
That's how it does 4K because it does have 4K output on HDMI.
yeah, that's fine. 120 frames per second in 1080p.
Yeah.
It's good. They were kicking it with the other one. I mean, this one's going to be great, except that it's never
Expensive.
coming. It's too expensive,
And it's going to
now
be
they're-
more expensive now.
They're delaying it because of this tariff stuff. I don't know if you heard this. It's been in the news a lot. Apparently,
Maybe not now, though. Maybe they knew because I think that the tariffs against Japan have been dropped to 10%. So,
Yeah, we'll see. This has the feel of something that will change every single day because our
Every
country's
hour.
terrible.
Goodness knows.
Yep.
By the time we finish, it'll be different.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
Tough time to buy the gear, though.
this must be an error.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. The Switch V2. It's not the Switch V2. It's a Switch 2. Because Walmart's selling a Switch V2, but no, that's
Jeez.
that's confusing. That's the OLED version of the Switch.
Oh, so it's a Rev 2 of the Switch 1.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So careful,
Guys,
everybody.
geez,
This is
come
the
on.
kind of thing that bites me, Hey, Merry Christmas. I bought you the new Switch. Dad, it's the V2. Yeah. No, it's not what I wanted, man.
Guys, you got to learn how to shop for kids.
I do not.
You know what? If you just bring them the 24 port Switch, then they'll be happier.
I bought you a Switch. It's PoE.
The same day, I was in Best Buy in the mid 1990s, and I wanted to buy a CD, but I couldn't think of the name of the band.
Oh,
So
boy.
back then, they had these giant aisles full of CDs, and people that would just work there. That's the world. So I was like, "Hey, I'm looking." These guys said, "Can I help you find something?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for this band, but it's like Collective Love, Collective something." He kind of looked at me like, "Collective Soul." I'm like, "Maybe." And that was the band. It was great, but
Oh,
whatever.
you mean Jamiroquai?
But I'm checking out, and there's a grandmother in front of me paying at the register, and she says, "I need a present for a whatever age girl. do you think this would be better or this, or whatever the choices were? She's asking the guy at the counter, and I was like, please get her a gift certificate. I was like, do not do that.
Don't let her buy it.
Yeah.
So this just in from the Nintendo page.
Yep.
Switch to pre-order 6/5 or no? That's just when they said they were going to deliver it.
Late, wasn't it April? No,
June
what was the
5th.
Original date?
Or is that
May or June?
May
May 6th or June?
Oh, the Japanese people.
Or is
I
it
don't
June
know. It's
5th?
got the big American flag on the site. I don't know.
There you go.
How to buy? Because I do really, I do want it.
This thing is going to look like a EULA.
Register your interest.
Yep.
And then
Check
I
back
appreciate
soon.
what Nintendo's doing here, right? Is to stop them from being squatted. You
Yeah.
have to use your
Rightly
Nintendo
so.
account to go on.
That's right. You don't want disappointed young fans,
Yeah.
losing their minds because they
You
can't
don't
get
want
this thing.
disappointed young. Nobody wants disappointed young fans. So get a gift certificate. Kevin says June 5th is the ship date, which is unchanged. The pre-order date is the problem.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You're watching, and you show great taste by doing so. Windows Weekly. That's Paul Thurrott. That's Richard Campbell. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue the show with the back of the book.
Yeah.
Mr. Paul Thurrott.
So, Leo, last week you brought up Programmers at Work. You had the book. You had the original Microsoft Press version.
Yeah,
but the
love
original, that was the first edition of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a later edition. It went to a
Susan
different
Lammers.
publisher. Someone reached out to me on Twitter and said, hey, listen to Windows Weekly, looked up this book, and then found the website from the woman who wrote it. And she is, now these are not like from 2 days ago. They're from 5-6 years ago, whatever. But she has republished the interviews and in some cases expanded on them.
Oh, that's worth getting. Yeah, I mentioned it's on the Internet Archive. The
book is, yes. But if you go to her website, it hasn't been I'm sorry, it hasn't been updated in 4 years, but it has the interviews haven't been updated in 12 years. But these are all from the 80s. It doesn't matter. The point is these interviews are now on her website.
Oh, that's
so
right.
You can actually go find these things.
It's so worth reading.
Yep.
Is it SusanLammers.com? What's the website?
It's programmersatwork.wordpress.com.
Oh boy.
Yeah, sorry. And then there's a sidebar that has the links and it has the years and whatever. But
That's
she
fantastic.
went. Yeah, this is just worth
there it
looking
is.
at. Yeah, really neat.
Thank you, unnamed Twitter user.
Well, his name is Code is the KODE, Mr.
Nice.
Anderson the First. So none of those are his real name, I would imagine. But yeah, thank you for that. Really cool.
Yeah, it's really a great book, and it is unfortunately out of print. But you can go to the website and get the updated
The one I
stuff.
had was a later edition. It had a different cover, and it wasn't Microsoft Press by that point. It had moved to some other company. I don't remember.
Well, there's a kind of a follow-up called Coders at Work.
Yeah, it's Programmers at Work.
You have the
I
Programmers
looked
at
this thing
Work,
up after the show because I was really curious about this myself. And there were two versions of it, but one from I want to say 85, 86, and then one from 88, 89.
Okay.
But I think it was just a republish. It wasn't updated. I don't think it was updated, but
This is great. She has, this is an older blog. The last post is 4 years ago, but there are updates on all of the people she interviewed and so forth. This is really, it was a great, to me, it was, we've talked before about those kind of seminal books like Pascal Zachary's Showstoppers, like Stephen Levy's Hackers, like Tracy Kidder's Soul of a New Machine. These are books that, if you want to understand how we got here, they're must reads, right?
like Sandra Bullock's The Net. I think these are all.
Who could ever forget?
Wow. I mean, if we're going to go back to basics,
Sneakers. Let's not forget.
It's like the files copying on the floppy, and it's like the tension. I can't take the tension.
No, but we've talked about this before, you and I, Paul, about these great books, and I know you love Showstoppers.
Oh yeah,
which is about
I reread that
NT.
every couple of years. Like I just reread it, reread it.
And I don't know, for me, they inform my understanding of what's going on, how the industry works, who these people are. It makes me better at covering these stories. And Programmers at Work was...
This was the golden era too. There were so many books like between about that time frame, maybe the mid 90s, that were all about the start of the industry, the start of the IBM PC, the start of Apple, the start of Microsoft, it was just great. And then, when Microsoft became dominant, it was all like, who's going to stop Bill Gates? There were a million of these things,
right.
Barbarians at the gates, et cetera. And then, thank God, antitrust happened, because we had 5 years of that,
Yeah.
It's kind of really been downhill since 2000.
Yeah, it's you can see the slope. But
this last century was great. The 20th century was really great for this stuff.
That is maybe the oldest person thing you've ever said in your life.
I can't
the
get
20th
with
century was okay. I don't know about this one
This
yet.
new century, I don't understand it.
I question it.
I don't get it.
Can you believe we're a quarter of the way into the 21st century?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or no,
I know.
21st.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I still like the old one better. You know what we didn't understand that I wish we did? We were living in a golden age.
We were living in a remarkable time. Yeah.
Flush toilets.
Maybe the Matrix was right. 1999 was the year.
Sometimes I have hot water in the shower here. It's fantastic.
It's
I don't know. It's not overrated.
Yeah.
So that was your pick or your
That was my tip.
Okay.
Yeah. So a couple of picks, I guess. It wasn't a pick. Speaking of the 20th century.
Again, the best TV too. Yep.
I know. Yeah. Eventually. Yeah. So Apple Music is now available with Dolby Atmos supported Windows, right? So since it came out in that kind of new, it's like a modern app now. I think Microsoft helped them create it. Same thing with Apple TV. It has supported lossless music, but not Dolby Atmos, but now it does. And so I was actually testing it out the other day. It's nice.
I don't think about Dolby Atmos for home play. I think about that in movie theaters, but okay.
Oh, no. A lot of systems now have Atmos. I have Atmos at home. The problem is it's not real Atmos unless you bounce it off the ceiling.
Of course. But you could, headphones can do a decent job depending on the headphone.
Apple's spatial is basically Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, even a computer, if you have like 4 speakers, they can do, at worst, what you're getting is kind of like a nice stereo separation.
Right.
If you're lucky, you'll get that feel of like, you can almost see each instrument is in its own place, if that makes sense, in space. Even with speakers, it's pretty good, so it's good. I'll try to do this quickly. I added this as like a weird little addendum, but I wrote an article today that sort of about the tech product services, whatever it is, that are not insurtified, right? Like, and not as a list. I don't mean like these are all awesome. I don't mean like that, but it's interesting how the industry has been disrupted over the years. And if you think about, I went back and looked at this crazy, in 2006, Google bought a company that made something called Writely, which was one of the first web word processors. It looks ludicrous today, and they turned it into Google Docs.
Wow.
And they developed a spreadsheet program in-house. They put them together. They had different names over the years, but now, of course, this is like Workspace or Google Docs, whatever we call these things. There was this shining moment of time, not shining, but for me, it was kind of a weird moment where I'm going to call it 2005 to 2010, 12, where Google just set out to do everything. Did Microsoft do something? Let's do that. And they made their version, they did their Office productivity suite. They did this, they did everything, right? And this is what that came out of. And it forced Microsoft to go from traditional Office suite running on Windows or Mac to having versions on the web, eventually to having versions on mobile, to having Office, BPOS, which by the way came out, announced that same year, and then became Office 365, and then now Microsoft 365, right? We can kind of credit Google with lighting a little fire into them, because this was like Steven Sinofsky had wanted to do a web-based version of these Office apps for years and kept getting shot down because this is going to kill our paid Office business. What are you talking about? We don't want to put this on the web.
And then he was over on the Windows side doing the same thing. He switched roles.
Yep.
And they actually had it written. They sat on the shelf for 2 years.
Yeah,
they were done in 2011. They didn't ship till 2013, and only incredible. After Win 8 failed.
Sometimes you need,
was gone.
Yeah, you need that push, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because this is happening to Google now, right? We've always had these alternatives. Back in the day, You could have any number of open source Office suites, many of which still are around, like LibreOffice or OpenOffice or whatever. I'm going to forget the name of it. Doesn't matter. I used to use this kind of third-party word processor because it was lighter, smaller, whatever. It was pretty good, whatever. But I feel like we're suddenly swimming in all these apps and services that you can use either ad hoc, right? Like things like Notion, Markdown editors, Proton Pass, Proton has mail and calendar and whatever else. So you can kind of mix and match, like Slack. You could have like Google. I'm going to use Google Workspace, but I'm going to use Slack, as well, right? Kind of, like pieces of a puzzle. Like obviously, bigger businesses go after like the big monolithic thing, Microsoft, that gives you everything, you get everything, and that's good to some degree, whatever. But I do feel like an AI is accelerating this because now we're getting these capabilities on even free things, right? Like Grammarly or Language Tool or whatever, and it's interesting, but. In the same way that Google Docs / Workspace came along and kind of prodded Microsoft back in 2006, I feel like Notion, and to a lesser degree, but maybe Proton, are also doing this now to Google, right? That they come up from the bottom. Their Notion, I don't know why Notion hasn't given me a bill. I use Notion so much. I don't use Notion Calendar or Mail, but they do have these standalone apps if you want them. I believe at least Calendar also integrates directly into the Notion main app. But between those things, they have the start of
a really nice
suite. Used to be, Proton, like I said, Mail, Calendar, but also Drive with an online word processor, just like Google Docs, and they have all their other stuff, right? I mean, maybe there's some combination of these two things, or maybe one of these two things. I don't, it's whatever, but we've kind of gotten to an interesting point. And everything I just mentioned, Notion, Typora, Proton, whatever, they're not crap. They're actually, they're often free, or can be, depending on how you do it. They're not, they're not like these ad delivering things that,
not yet.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. That's why I qualified what I said earlier. Yeah. Leo asked, is it
at
is
some
it
point
even
the
possible?
investors say, when are we going to get paid?
Yeah.
And then the certification begins.
Well, okay. So in the case of Notion, for example, I've talked to my wife about this because she uses this all the time as well. I keep waiting for them to come down and say, you've been kind of using the hell out of this thing. I'm thinking, I don't know, $5 a month, something, which honestly would be reasonable.
Yep.
Perfectly reasonable. And that will happen eventually.
I pay for it. You don't pay for it?
No, I don't. I've never had to.
You don't have to, I guess. Yeah.
I just showed you a database on the web.
No, that's pretty impressive.
I don't even understand what are you doing? Anyway, that, like Richard said, this will change. There's no doubt about it. The question is how much it changes, and
you have
how well you
Notion,
respond to the pressures.
There is a Notion watermark on it. Maybe you wouldn't have that if you. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. There's
if you go back,
something you get.
If you look at Proton, the company, they did some change in their corporate architecture at some point last year, I think it was, where they will persist and exist forever. It will be open source. It will. They do charge, but they charge to pay the cost and pay employees and things like that. Like it's not a for-profit company. Privacy focused. There's something going on there that I think is really special. It's worth looking at. And where Proton falls short in kind of the Notion space, maybe, I think there are two great tastes that go together here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's something to think about for sure. And I think all this AI advance that's happening now over the past couple of years, which feels like the past 48 years, is going to help make that happen, right? I think this is another era of disruption. So
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I think so.
I hope so. Hope you're right. You know what this brings us to?
I do.
Mr. Richard Campbell's
hello.
Run as
Fancy meeting you here.
Radio Rocks.
This is Run As, yeah. And this particular show is talking about Security Copilot, which I've visited before, and talking about, as these things starting to mature. Security Copilot was one of the very first Copilots announced. And it was the one where I looked at him and went, you guys are out of your minds. Come on, that is such a huge topic. On the other hand, from a persona perspective, thinking about the average sysadmin, especially in the SMB world, you don't have a full-time security person. You maybe put the tinfoil hat on once a month, if you're lucky, maybe once a quarter. And so the idea that there might be a tool that would help you prioritize the most important security issues for your organization at the time. Still, how is this even possible? And now we're seeing in Security Copilot what's actually going on, which is that it is an integration point for various security-related data sets. And this particular show, the one I did with Ari Shore, who is part of the Entra team, showed this because the Entra team has now added an integration to Security Copilot specifically for evaluating the authentication security of internal applications. This is awesome because if you think about any mid-sized business or even a larger one, there can easily be 100 internal or 1,000 internal apps. So answer the question, are they all using the current generation authentication? Which ones aren't? And the fact is, this is a tool that would lead you exactly to that. Here are the apps who do not have good authentication security in place. And so you can basically make a checklist of the worst problems in front of you right now that can get remedied the quickest and start doing some triage around all that. So bit by bit, I keep going back to the Learn page on Security Copilot and seeing the integration list is getting longer, not just different Microsoft teams, but also third-party integrations now as well. So there's more shows here for me to tap into. But it's starting to manifest this vision of that, exactly that persona, the part-time security person, not knowing what to work on next and having a tool to help them prioritize that list and get working on fixing them. But arguably, in some cases, and Ari talks about this, there's some of them where you can literally hit the button that says, fix it for me, enforce that security requirement, require TLS 1.2, like those kinds of features are emerging from this tool now.
Very good. Run as Radio, episode 979.
Yeah, here we are.
Location
21
risk
shows
and
away from the
security.
big 1,000.
That's amazing. Good job, Richard.
I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly. I'm not running out of shows. That's not a problem. That's not even close to a problem.
No, but how to celebrate is I have the same issue. How do you celebrate that?
Very difficult. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know what to do. Yeah. We're as I mentioned, well, let me go back to this. As I mentioned, that's not what I wanted. We are celebrating our 20th anniversary on Sunday.
Yeah. Well,
and I didn't really know what to do either. We got Patrick. I think Patrick Norton's coming back. Kevin Rose sent me a note, said, I just got off the plane. I went to Switzerland and London, Stockholm, and now I'm going to Sweden, and then I have to go to Santa Fe. So I'm busy. Wow. I said, you're doing well. He's like a big shot now, right? So I said, sure. No problem. You're doing great. Thank you. We're going to have a good show anyway, because Patrick will be there, one of the originals, along with Samable Samet, who's our car guy. He's been with us for a long time. And a good person to celebrate. Alan Milventano, also former host of This Week in Computer Hardware. So, and most importantly, videos from our fans that have been fantastic.
That's awesome.
Keep sending them. It's not too late. I want to just, celebrate our audience, because that's really what makes all of our shows exist. We wouldn't be silly for me and Richard and Paul to get together once a week and just talk to each other. That'd be weird.
Damn it.
I know. But thanks to you, we have an excuse. So we're going to celebrate that. That'll be this Sunday, TWiT. Now, you could recommend a little something, a beverage, a little quaff to go along with the 20th.
So we'll call this the MVP collection, because coming into the MVP summit, I have been given a lot of whiskey. 6 or 7 bottles.
Is this a tribute thing? What happens there?
I don't know. I think people listen to the show. They really like the whiskey bit. And so knowing they were going to see me at the MVP Summit, they literally asked, can I bring you a bottle?
I'm you are
sure.
That's awesome.
So this is one of them. This comes from my friend Charlotte. She prefers to be called Lottie. And it's called the Heart Cut. And now Lottie's not a whiskey expert, but her brother is in an adjacent business in London. And so wanting to get me something unusual, he achieved that with the Heart Cut. Now
I see it's mostly gone now, by the way.
Yeah, because we all drank it together. We had a good taste of it. It's
But it
only
must have
a
been good.
500 ml bottle. It's a smaller bottle. It's quite little, actually.
Yeah. Sure.
So
It's not it's the bottles that got small. I understand.
Yeah. This comes from a distillery called the East London Liquor Company. So this is in the East End of London, which is literally an area defined almost 2,000 years ago as the east side outside the Roman walls around Londinium.
Oh my God. Wow.
And today, the eastern edge of that was further changed when 1066 in the Battle of Hastings, and then the White Tower gets built, which now known as the London Tower, is now that east edge of that wall. So that's 1078 is when the tower goes up. So the east side has been the east end has been the east end for a long time, north of the Thames, but east of the walls. Now we're talking a little bit more contemporary time. The East London Liquor Company is on Regent's. It's actually on the Hereford Union Canal, which you go up the Regent's Canal to get to by Victoria Park. It was created by a fellow by the name of Alex Wolpert. And Alex Wolpert is a former actor and producer. And while he was an actor, he was also a bartender because he liked to eat. And so became enamored of cocktails. And ended up opening his own restaurants and bars. And in 2014, decided to expand one of his bars to have a distillery in it, a small one, but right away making gins and vodkas, because that's how you make money. You can produce very quickly. It took a few years to actually get to whiskey making. His stills are very small, a 2,000 liter wash still, 650 liter Holstein style hybrid still, very small. But because he was deeply connected to the bar community of London, this is where he sold this stuff. And today he does make a single malt made out of barley out of Norfolk. He tends to use a mixture of spring and winter barleys, the winter barley being harder and higher protein counts. And he does a couple of his own barrelings, including a version that's currently laid up in an Islay barrels. We don't know exactly which one, but you can also get your own casking if you care to. It's about 3,500 pounds, and you can get lay up a casking in a bourbon cask for yourself and get a couple hundred bottles from it. In fact, this particular edition I have here is one of only 344 bottles, but it's actually derived from his whiskey known as London Rye, which is 55% rye, 45% barley, fairly common. The original edition are released in 2018. But this bottling was not done by East London Liquor. It was actually done by a third party called Drinks One. And so Drinks One is based in London, and they select barrels and various alcohols from various suppliers to create a select group. And that's what this is. So it's from the East London Liquor Company, but it was actually produced by Drinks One, and in this case, they barreled it in Hackney Brewery chocolate stout casks.
Oh my!
So the Hackney Brewery, again, a local London brewery making their own beers. They make a very sturdy stout, and so this was aged for about 4 years in the stout casks. And so look at the amount of color that comes in that for what is such a young whiskey, 3-4 years old.
Looks
and again,
so good.
Only 344 bottles. I don't know if there's any left. It comes in about 50% alcohol, about 60 pounds, about $75 US. And it's mostly
but you won't be able to find it if there's only 344 bottles.
It is very, very good. My goodness.
Oh, here he goes. He's drinking.
And the reason it's 344 bottles, my goodness.
I'm so jealous. Lottie, you did good.
Yeah, that's because there's only 500 ml bottles, so they actually got far more from what they would typically get from a cask. Normally, there would be only about.
So that's a single cask.
Single cask. Bear.
Does it taste like rye whiskey at all, or did
it definitely has that rye spice to it? The bang of being rye forward, and then but it's got that chocolatey, like literally makes your mouth salivate of a stout. Right, like a Guinness or a very strong dark beer is right there on the tongue. So you're a little confused because you thought you were drinking whiskey, and yet you still kind of got that creamy, rich feel from the beer.
I'm always confused. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, but it's delightful. And so when it was brought to me, when they Lottie and a few of our other friends came up and stayed at the boathouse before we all went down to the MVP Summit together, so we drank this together, and I thought I'd save a little for you all. But just sitting off frame here are some of the other whiskeys. Like this is a Tasmanian. This one's a Hawaiian.
Tasmanian.
Who knew? So I'm researching them now for later editions. And in the summit was very, very good to me.
You can't buy it in the U.S. I'm trying to buy it.
Yeah, I think we might have to take a trip to London, see if we could still score one.
You can go on the website, but it won't let me buy it.
They're not going to deliver to the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're not alone anymore.
Nope.
We feel alone.
I feel alone. We've Brexited.
We Brexited the world.
We Brexited the world.
Oh, boy.
Wow, that really you made my mouth water. That looks really
That's
good.
happening to me too, and I had a taste.
Yeah. Wow. Very nice. Nice job, Lottie, and all the others.
Lottie knocked out. I'm going to call everyone out. The one I did a couple of weeks ago, the Kempish Vuur was from that's the Belgian peated.
Yeah.
That I talked about a couple of weeks ago. That was from my friend Hannes, who was also up here, which is why I did that one early. But the other two that I'm going to talk about will have come from the MVP Summit. So we'll definitely call
Gifts from the MVP Summit.
Yeah,
it's a new series we're going to start on YouTube.
Yeah, a couple of the others were ones I've already talked about in the past, like the Kavalan, which is the Taiwanese. I got a fresh bottle of that, and
those are always welcome too.
Yeah, I got the new Casper brought me the Stawning, the new edition of the Stawning peated, which is. I haven't opened yet, but I know it's going to be great. But we've already talked about Stawning before.
Don't feel you have to be original, but if you are,
well, I figure
I'm not always original, but when I am,
I figure once we get through all of them, then I'll go back and do different editions of the first ones. So.
That's who Richard is, the most interesting man in the world. That's who he is.
I don't always drink whiskey. Yes, I do.
I pretty much always drink whiskey, and I usually a different one each time. There's like 5 of them sitting on the desk right now.
Unbelievable. Gifts are welcome. Please feel free.
And will be put to work.
Yes, most importantly. Yeah. Richard Campbell is at runisradio.com. He also does .NET Rocks with Carl Franklin. You'll find both at his website, runisradio.com. Joins us every week. So good to have you, Richard. Thank you. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com, THURRO good. It's also, he's got his books, Windows Everywhere, The Field Guide to Windows 11 at leanpub.com. How'd that sale go?
Good. I made a lot of 73-cent sales. It was nice. No, it's good. It's
73 cents there, 77 cents here. It adds up someday to a couple of bucks.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm rich.
Pretty soon you have some sense.
You guys some tacos.
I finally have some sense.
We do Windows Weekly, as I mentioned, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. I hope you will join us. If not, of course, you could download a copy of the show. Please do. Join the club. Again, annual memberships are back. If you're currently a monthly membership member, you just check the box in your subscription page. It'll change automatically. We thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you again next week on Windows Weekly. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.